Chapter 75. Solons panicked. So did all the other Tubo envoys. If Li Shimin were to leave, the purpose of their visit would be over. Your Majesty. To tell the truth, we truly have come this time to seek help from the Great Tang. The drought in Tibet has already lasted for half a year, and it is still continuing. Not only has it not been alleviated in the slightest, it is even getting worse. Even the grass, roots, and tree bark have been eaten up by the starving people. Your Majesty is merciful. Please save us. We, Your Excellency. Wei Zheng took a step forward and looked at Solons with a serious face. I heard that you left Tubo 15 days ago. I want to know how you got here in the past half a month. I don't think it takes half a month to travel from Chang'an City to Tubo, right? You should know that the Longyu circuit of the Tang dynasty is also suffering from the threat of the drought. We are also very busy with this matter. The Tang dynasty is unable to help us for the time being. Wei Zheng was so pretentious, so awesome. Li Shimin gave Wei Zheng a thumbs up in his heart. Actually, none of them were fools. How could they not know what these envoys had done in Longyu circuit? They came here to ask for help just because they were poor. They were thinking too much. Did the things of the Tang dynasty come from the wind? That's enough. Li Shimin waved his hand slightly. This is a very important matter. Moreover, the Tang dynasty is still unable to prevent the drought. If we inform our allies of this method hastily and something goes wrong, won't Tubo be harmed? Therefore, I will write a letter to you and bring it back to Tubo. I will help you with this matter. However, the prerequisite is that the drought in Longyu circuit is truly resolved. Would they be able to solve the drought in Tubo after they had truly solved it? King hell, everyone was dead. Save my ass. Solons was anxious. He knelt on the ground and begged, Your Majesty, this humble subject has indeed left Tubo half a month ago. However, during this period of time, we have been in Longyu Dao and witnessed everything in Longyu Dao. If this method doesn't work, how can there be a better one? If we wait until the drought of the Tang dynasty is over, then our Tubo will be destroyed. Your Majesty, please save me, Tubo. If you are still angry, if you promise to save me, Tubo, I am willing to give you my life as an explanation. Envoy, you're being too serious. Li Shimin waved his hand. Since you know, then I won't hide it anymore. I can only have these things now, and I don't have any more for the time being. Moreover, you also know that those sacred objects are bestowed by the heavens. Therefore, I need the permission of the heavens before I can bestow them to you. You want to freeload? Not a chance. Do you think you can take away my things so easily? Do you think the people of the Tang dynasty are stupid? Enough. We'll talk about this later. Someone come. Take all the envoys to Honglu Temple to rest. In the evening, I will send the Crown Prince to personally entertain you. I'm tired, and the court. Without waiting for Solons to say anything, all the officials knelt on the ground and shouted, We respectfully send Your Majesty off. Then, all of them left in a hurry. It was as if they were afraid to spend more than 15 minutes with Solons and the others. Your Majesty, this matter, the deputy envoy behind Solons was anxious. Your Majesty, if we can't keep Li Shimin, how can we ask for the next time? Could it be that the Tang emperors think that the tribute is too little? Preposterous. Did the Tang dynasty? Suao, shut up. Solon scolded everyone with a gloomy face. His cold eyes swept over the group of envoys and said, This matter is of great importance. It's impossible to take it down so easily. Since His Majesty the Tang Emperor said to talk about it later, it means that there's still a chance. Let's suppress the anxiety in our hearts for the time being. I also know the current situation of our hometown, but we must be patient. Only the Tang dynasty can save us. You've seen what happened to Longyu Dao, right? When everyone heard this, they all shut their mouths. The expressions on their faces flickered rapidly. However, just as Suo Lang had said, now was not the right time. Then, Solons, do you think this matter can be done? Solons glanced at the direction where Li Shimin left and took a deep breath. Since His Majesty said to talk about it later, it means that there's still a chance. It's just a matter of the price. During this period of time, all of you had better keep your mouths shut. It's obvious that His Majesty knows about what happened at Long Yu Dao. That's why he's acting like this today. If His Majesty is even a little bit dissatisfied with us, this time we'll become Tubo's eternal sinners. Everyone was shocked. They knew about what happened at Long Yu Dao. Didn't that mean that everything that happened in Chang'an City just now was arranged by the emperor? Then, it was too scary. Who was the one who guessed all this? Or predicted it? Or could it be that the Tang emperors could predict the future? Chapter 76. After the court. Everyone left in a hurry. However, Wei Zheng and the others ended up gathering in the Taiji Palace after making a huge detour. Ha ha ha. Awesome. This old man has never felt so good before. Isn't that so? Just like that, the arrogance of the Tubo envoys was completely crushed. This brother Zhang Feng is amazing. Especially when old Wei asked that domineering question. I, old Sheng, almost held my axe and roared angrily. Enough. Don't be so smug. This matter has been dealt with for the time being, but it's not over yet. It will be more difficult next time. Li Shimin interrupted everyone. He continued, what do you think of this matter? Now, all of you know about Tubo's situation. Moreover, after observing everyone's words and actions today, as well as the situation in the secret report and the little shopkeeper's speculation, we realized that the drought in Tubo doesn't seem to be as easy as we thought. We suspect that their drought has already reached an uncontrollable stage. Hearing that, everyone put away the smiles on their faces and fell into deep thought. Wei Jing thought for a while and said with a fist salute, Your Majesty, I think we should help. Didn't the shopkeeper say so? We can sell this to them at a high price. In this way, we sell my ass. Hearing that, Qing Yaojin slapped the armchair and said, Your Majesty, I've thought about it. If you can give me 300,000 soldiers, I promise to conquer Tubo in a month. Nonsense. Du Ruhui's face was gloomy. He pointed at Qing Yaojin's nose and shouted, You black charcoal man, you only know how to fight and kill. The situation in Tubo is so bad now. They don't even know about the plague of locusts. Tell me, if you conquer them now, won't you cause more trouble for the Tang dynasty? It's easy for you to conquer them, but we have to bear all the disasters by ourselves. I don't think this method is appropriate. Why is it inappropriate? Sigh. Old Du, what do you think? We have the young shopkeeper with us now. As long as we take down Tubo, we can slowly use this way. Enough. Old Black, sit down. Li Shimin waved his hand. I have also thought about this matter, but this is the most dangerous, so I don't agree. Even if we want to fight, we have to wait for the disaster to end. Wouldn't it be better for us to receive a complete Tubo? Why do I have to pick up trouble? Qing Yaojin shrank his neck and wanted to say something, but after Wei Jing glared at him, he had to swallow his words. Li Shimin said again, Let's continue our discussion. Things must be given, but what do they have to give you? And what is it that we urgently need? Zhang Sun Wuji narrowed his eyes and said, Your Majesty, do you still remember that the shopkeeper said that Tubo also had a locust plague? Li Shimin's eyes lit up. Yeah. And from their conversation today, it seems that they didn't notice the locust plague? Yes. If that's the case, the locust plague, Li Shimin stroked his chin and walked a few rounds in Taiji Palace. A bright light suddenly flashed in his eyes. Wei Zheng, tell me about the situation in Tubo from the Secretarial Bureau. Wei Zheng seemed to have realized something. He hurriedly said, Your Majesty, according to the information compiled by the Secretarial Bureau, most of Tubo's wealth and food industry are concentrated in the hands of a few rich people. And now, although most of the ordinary people are starving and even risking their lives to climb the mountains and come to the Tang dynasty to find food, I think that we really don't need to help Tubo for the time being. Why? Everyone looked at Wei Zhang in confusion. Wei Zhang's eyes flashed fiercely. Their nobles are not hungry yet. Their people are not rioting yet. This time, they must have sent people here because the higher-ups of Tubo are also worried about this problem. If we make a fuss about this and spread the news about Long Yu Dao, I believe that in less than half a month, Tubo will definitely kneel and beg the Tang dynasty. Good. Wei Zhang. So you're this kind of person? You're too mean. But I like it. Hee, you're really cold on the inside. Everyone heard that and could not help but have goosebumps. At that moment, they even made a mental note to themselves. From now on, they must never offend Old Man Wei. This guy is going to trick you to death. Now, I just want to know how to solve the problem of Tubo's envoys. We have to come up with a plan for this matter, and what do we need them to give us in exchange? We don't lack land now, and they can't wait to give us land. We don't want it. Then what's left? Li Shimin asked 3 questions in a row. However, everyone looked thoughtful, but no one could come up with a plan. Then, Li Shimin said in a serious tone, "In that case, I think it's time to ask the shopkeeper. This thing originally belonged to him." Everyone looked at each other. Everyone's eyes lit up. That's right. How could he have forgotten about that guy for something like this? Chapter 77. In the tavern. It was still as boring as ever. In fact, Zhang Feng was so bored that he was dozing off while roasting the mutton skewers alone. "Boss. I, Old Chen, am here." However, at that moment, a loud roar scared Zhang Feng so much that he threw the mutton skewers in his hand away. At that moment, he saw that Lao Li, Old Chen, Old Sun, and Old Wei had arrived in a hurry. "Yo! Lao Li. You guys. Ouch. Old Chen, that voice of yours, you almost scared me to death, you know?" Qing Yaojin chuckled. However, he smelled the tempting aroma in the air and asked, "Boss, are you roasting meat? What meat is this? Why is it so fragrant? When I, Old Chen, used to eat a lot of roasted meat when I was hunting, and they were all as big as a basin. This meat of yours. Isn't it too small? Boss. We're here to disturb you again. Old Chen is just like that, don't take it to heart." Li Shimin smiled and patted Zhang Feng on the shoulder. Zhang Feng waved his hand. "It's okay. Come, you guys came at the right time. You don't know. How can you be so bored? You've been doing it day by day. Oh right, this is good stuff. Roasted mutton skewers. Have you eaten it? Roasted mutton skewers?" Li Shimin frowned slightly when he heard that. Even Wei Jing furrowed his brows. "This is mutton?" "Yes. Old Wei, you have good taste. Come, sit down. I'll roast meat for everyone today. Let's eat and drink while roasting." As he spoke, Zhang Feng set up the mutton skewers again and began roasting. Li Shimin and the others were not in the mood to eat roasted mutton. However, the aroma of the meat was extremely appetizing. Who could resist it? Besides, everyone was also craving Zhang Feng's wine. After a while, Zhang Feng had roasted a large plate of barbecued meat, and carried out a large wine jar that was as big as one person hugging it. He said tiredly, "Old Li. Do you know? It's too boring. If you guys didn't come, I might have fallen asleep. Come, there's enough wine today. No one is allowed to leave until we finish this jar." Li Shimin looked at the vat of wine and his head exploded. He waved his hand. "Brother Zhang, this wine is good, but it's too easy to get drunk. Moreover, you came today. I have a big deal for you." "Big deal?" Zhang Feng was confused. "Hey. Isn't it about the locust egg you gave me and the water wheel? Oh. After Li's Zhang, what? When Li Shimin heard that, he almost spat out the wine in his mouth. Wei Jing quickly interrupted, brother, it's like this. Today, a big merchant took a fancy to our water wheel and delicacies. Moreover, he's from Tubo. That's why we're being very cautious and decided to come and see what you think. A businessman from Tubo was also here? Could it be the diplomatic mission that entered Chang'an City today? Yes. Li Shimin patted Zhang Feng's shoulder. Even though I managed to get the news out of Long Yu Dao and even made a fortune out of it, I still did as you said and sent people to spread the news of the matter. Guess what? Zhang Feng took a sip of wine and asked, what? The diplomatic mission from Tubo hid in Longyu Road for 10 days just to study the water wheel. Study the water wheel? Zhang Feng laughed. I dare to believe that even if Lu Ban was alive, he wouldn't be able to make that thing. Although it looks simple, you should know that its internal structure is extremely complicated. You want to disassemble it for research? Zhang Feng laughed. What if it's my patent, Zhang Feng? That's not something that others can covet. Li Shimin asked hurriedly, why? It will self-destruct. So, you're worried about this? This bunch of misers. Zhang Feng couldn't help but make a mental note in his heart. No. Li Shimin said hurriedly, that's one thing. I'm afraid that they will tell Tubo about this. After all, they stayed in Longyu Road for 10 days. You don't have to worry about that. Zhang Feng said confidently. Why? Because if they really did figure it out, do you think they would come and beg His Majesty for help? Will they come to see His Majesty? Do you think they are as stupid as you? Li Shimin didn't care. He asked hurriedly, then, why is that? If they really tell Tubo, then they won't. Zhang Feng stood up, chewing on the mutton skewer, and said, His Majesty is not stupid. How could he not set up a defense at Tubo's border? Even if this thing is told, it will be fine. It will only increase the value of this thing by another level. Zhang Feng saw it clearly. And from the perspective of a bystander. At this time, Li Shimin, except for Qing Yaojin, everyone nodded thoughtfully. Zhang Feng seemed to have thought of something. He threw away the mutton skewer in his hand and patted Li Shimin's shoulder excitedly, saying, Lao Li, you're going to be famous. Li Shimin was dumbfounded. Famous for what? Hey! Why are you always so stupid at crucial moments? You're going to be rich this time. His Majesty is going to summon us. Chapter 78. Li Shimin was dumbfounded. He had really forgotten about that. At that moment, Wei Zhang and the others felt their hearts clench. How could they have forgotten about this? Was the emperor going to lay his cards on the table at that moment? Everyone looked at Li Shimin with burning eyes, then looked at Zhang Feng. They didn't even drink the wine or eat the meat. Zhang Feng felt his hair stand on end. Hey, do you have to be like this? I didn't say what I was going to do. Isn't the look in your eyes a little too scary? Ahem. Li Shimin coughed deliberately and glared at everyone. He said, Brother Zhang, how do you explain this? How could the emperor possibly summon small fry like us? You don't know this, do you? Zhang Feng said mysteriously, this time, Tubo's envoy did not do anything wrong. Instead, he was smart enough to help us publicize it. If they really spread the news back, we'll be rich. However, I don't see any anxiety on their faces. That means they haven't sent the news back yet. Why do you feel that way? What if Tubo's envoy is just putting on a show? Wei Zheng asked doubtfully. He did not believe that Tubo's people would not send the news back. Zhang Feng waved his hand and said, it's very simple. You can ask your servants in Longyu Road to see if there are any abnormalities at the border. Take a guess. If the Tang dynasty was facing an unsolvable drought and you knew that Tubo had a solution, would you be able to sit still? Of course not. Wei Zheng nodded with a solemn expression. Then it's settled. Looking at the situation now, they want to take credit. This is human nature. If they can develop this thing in Longyu Road, they don't have to come to Chang'an City. Moreover, they can get the tribute this time. Not only that, they will also receive the highest reward. This is a question that even a fool can think of. Why can't you all think of it? Hee, I'm just worried. Li Shimin laughed. If that's the case, you mean that Tubo doesn't know about this yet. Why did you say that His Majesty wants to see us? Zhang Feng looked at Li Shimin speechlessly. Lao Li. I doubt that with your IQ, how did you manage to protect your businesses? Do you even need to ask? Why don't you think about it? You've made a lot of money in Longyu Circuit, and I already know about it. Even the government has taken action. Let's settle this matter later. You have to give me the money. Li Shimin smiled awkwardly. I forgot about that. However, I promise that I will give you a satisfactory answer after I settle the matter with the ambassador from Tubo. Good. Lao Li is really generous. Zhang Feng patted Li Shimin's shoulder. Come. Cheers. Where were we? Zhang Feng put down his wine bowl and asked. Wei Zheng hurriedly reminded him, you said that the government has taken action. Yes. Zhang Feng slapped his head. What does it mean if the government has taken action? The current His Majesty is the greatest emperor of all time, and the Longyu Circuit is the lifeline of the Great Tang. Right now, there must be as many spies as dogs, and soldiers roaming the area. Does His Majesty not know of your little schemes? He's just giving you face and turning a blind eye to it. Who knows? Your proposal has already appeared in front of His Majesty. Zhang Feng was speechless. This group of idiots. Don't they know how to hold the core documents in their hands? Otherwise, Li Shimin should be the one coming to ask Lao Li and the others, and Lao Li and the others would bring Li Shimin to him. This time, however, he had thought about this before. This was unavoidable. Moreover, this was what he wanted to see the most. Li Shimin. He was going to see Li Shimin. After thinking about it, Zhang Feng felt that it was impossible. Now that he had gotten that thing, why would he want to see him? It was more likely that he wanted to see Lao Li. However, this was also good. As long as he established a relationship this time, it would be much easier to handle later. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng chuckled. Lao Li, have you heard about the Tubo ambassador this time? What did he bring? Ask Lao Wei. His relative is working in the secretarial department. Li Shimin pointed at Wei Zheng. Wei Zheng said, well, he brought leather goods, cattle, sheep, gemstones, etc. These are all normal things. There is nothing special about them. Zhang Feng heard this and thought for a while. Then have you heard? Did the emperor agree to help Tubo? Wei Zheng inadvertently glanced at Li Shimin. No, I heard that Tubo did not mention anything about benefits. The emperor seems to be waiting for Tubo to take the initiative to mention the benefits. The emperor also seems to be discussing this with the ministers. Oh. Zhang Feng frowned. However, the next moment, Zhang Feng's face lit up. This time we are going to be rich. Ha ha ha. Come, let's drink another bowl. Li Shimin and the others were stunned. They looked at each other, but there was a flash of excitement in their eyes. Serious business was coming. Zhang Feng smacked his lips. This matter is brilliant. It is really brilliant. What kind of person is the emperor? I really want to meet him. When everyone heard this, they subconsciously looked at Li Shimin. Li Shimin coughed. What does this have to do with the emperor? Zhang Feng smacked his lips and looked at everyone with a serious face. He said, this time, I can guarantee that you will move. Chapter 79. Li Shimin was dumbfounded. Move? What does that have to do with me? Li Shimin thought for a while, but he couldn't think of anything to do with it. He asked doubtfully, Brother Zhang Feng, what does this have to do with His Majesty? Could it be that the current emperor will not tolerate us? No, no, no. Zhang Feng waved his hand. Actually, this is an opportunity. Think about it, this thing came from you, right? Although you didn't take me as your master, I taught you, right? Take him as my master? Taught him? Li Shimin couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Zhang Feng picked up the wine and took a sip. He ate the mutton skewers and said, to put it bluntly, you're going to be rich. You're going to be rich. You definitely won't be able to fit all the money in your house now. Do you think it's feasible not to move? What? Rich? Well, although they were not real businessmen, the purpose of coming to Zhang Feng this time was to decide what to get from Tubo. The most important thing was that they couldn't figure out what Tubo could offer and what the Tang dynasty needed. Zhang Feng wiped his greasy mouth, took another sip of wine, and said, Are you short of money now? They couldn't help but shake their heads. Then, what do you lack? When they heard that, they couldn't help but lower their heads and ponder. Now, except for money and people, what did they lack? They wanted everything that Tubo had. It was just that they didn't know what they could and couldn't take it this time. Brother Zhang, just say it. We haven't decided on this matter, so we came to you. Li Shimin's face couldn't help but become serious. Zhang Feng heard that and nodded. It's not your fault. This matter is really a headache. Now, what you can get is money, so much money that you can't count. The key was the current emperor. No matter how good our plans are, if the current emperor can't see through it or has a different way of thinking from us, then no matter how much we think about it, it's just nonsense, isn't it? If you were the current emperor, what would you do? Li Shimin was excited. He blurted out in a hurry. However, in the next moment, the temperature in the tavern dropped significantly. Zhang Feng looked at Li Shimin suspiciously. I say, old Li, what are you trying to do? We were just discussing it before, why are you being so silly? How could I possibly know the emperor's decision? What's more, even if I know, I can't say it. You'll really lose your head. Li Shimin also knew that he was anxious. He smiled embarrassedly, stop. Zhang Feng speechlessly interrupted Li Shimin, you're saying that this is the cost of the wine again, right? Let me tell you. Now the concept of this thing is really beyond the scope of what we can discuss. Lao Li, for the sake of your family's life, you'd better take it easy. Brother Zhang. Don't worry. I, Old Wei, promise you that absolutely no one will know about this. Aren't we discussing this for our own benefit? This is understandable. At least we can be one step ahead of some unnecessary risks. And with your divine foresight, this can be considered as giving us brothers all right. Zhang Feng patted Wei Zheng on the shoulder, clicked his tongue twice, and said, our old Wei still knows me well. All right, then I'll make an exception here and say this again. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but perk up 120%. Zhang Feng lowered his head and pondered for a moment. In fact, he was really afraid of this group of big mouths on this matter. If they really got excited and spilled the beans, then his foundation would be ruined. However, if he didn't say anything to these people, the benefits, this thing, it was really hard to say when the time came. Although he was not greedy, this was also a plan for the future, wasn't it? What if what they were discussing now really happened when they met the emperor? Wouldn't they be throwing away a mountain of gold and silver if they were to open their mouths and say something wrong? What knowledge did they have? Thinking of this, Zhang Feng said, if I were that person today, I would never take a penny from them. Although the Tang dynasty is short of everything now, and money is the most valuable thing, but this thing depends on the place and the time. If this is a normal time, this gold and silver thing, although it is feasible, if you take it to Long Yudao now, can you exchange it for food? Li Shimin was stunned. Several people couldn't help shaking their heads. Can't. Then isn't it enough? Then, Brother Zhang, you mean, food. Li Shimin and others suddenly understood. However, their faces immediately became bitter. Brother Zhang, you said that Tubo is suffering from a serious drought now. How can they have surplus food? How can this be possible? Zhang Feng chuckled and said, you guys just wait and see. His Majesty will definitely do so. Why? Li Shimin asked speechlessly. He came here to ask because he didn't know. If he knew, why would he come here? Wei Zheng, who is by the emperor's side, is known as the human mirror. If the emperor can't give an order, with him around, nothing will go wrong. And most importantly, with Fang Mao and Du Duan, with these two, do you think the emperor will be like you and make a plan? However, at this moment, Zhang Feng changed the topic and said, the emperor will definitely ask for food. However, Tubo will definitely not give this food. Chapter 80. Wei Zheng couldn't help but stroke his beard. Once again, he thought highly of Zhang Feng. If it weren't for the presence of the emperor and the others, he would have laughed out loud. He was so excited. However, at this moment, Zhang Feng's next words made them even more confused. Brother Zhang, you. Since the emperor needs food to solve the problem, how can Tubo not give it to him? If he doesn't give it to him, the emperor won't give him the solution to the drought. Isn't this like drawing water with a bamboo basket? Isn't this back to the original problem? We have also thought about this matter. However, this matter should, probably, not be as difficult as you described it to be, right? Since Tubo is begging him, how can he not give it to him? Only Li Shimin's eyes kept flashing. Brother Zhang Feng, are you talking about exchanging food for the water wheel? No. Zhang Feng interrupted them and said mysteriously, the emperor is not a fool. If he really does that, not only will he not get what he wants, but it will also cause conflict between the two sides. What? Ouch. Brother Zhang, don't beat around the bush. Just say it directly. If you were that person, how would you solve this problem? That's right. You're always so flustered. Our hearts can't keep up with you. Qing Yaojin patted Zhang Feng on the shoulder and said speechlessly. This slap hurt Zhang Feng so much that he grimaced. It hurt too much. What kind of farm work did old Chen do before? His strength, this. Was he a dung picker? No, I have to remember him and stay away from him in the future. Zhang Feng marked Qing Yaojin as a boorish man in his heart and said, okay. In that case, I won't beat around the bush. I don't know if you understand, but I'll try to be as straightforward as possible. Actually, Tubo definitely won't agree to ask for food so directly. Right now, their citizens are so hungry that they're eating tree bark and grass roots. Their food is concentrated in the hands of a few wealthy merchants. Most of it is in the hands of the royal family and nobles. If you want their food, wouldn't you be asking for their lives? Li Shimin was shocked. He hurriedly asked, then you mean, we shouldn't save them first? Wrong. Then, do you mean that we should let the Tang dynasty send an envoy to Tubo and directly make a deal with their senior officials? Otherwise, where would the food come from? Wei Zheng hurriedly added. However, Zhang Feng rejected all of them. No. It's not like that. Right now, things haven't developed to the point where it's imminent. And their food, even the commoners at the bottom don't know anything about it, so we have to give it to them. However, we still have to let this matter fester. First of all, if that person is really the Emperor of the 1,000 Ages, it will depend on whether he has the guts to do so. What guts? Li Shimin clenched his fists slightly. Then, he said, I've heard a little about this matter. The current emperor does have plans in this regard. Zhang Feng nodded when he heard that. It's fine. Don't try to figure out the current emperor's affairs. Be careful not to get yourself into trouble. Commoners like us should just live our own lives. Li Shimin immediately nodded his head as if he had learned something. Zhang Feng continued, actually, the guts depends on whether he dares to take the risk. If he dares to take the risk, sell the water wheel to him, dismantle it and sell it to him. We'll pretend that we don't know about the insect eggs. When his locusts really erupt, that's the time to make a fortune. Let's talk about the water wheel first. As for the blueprint, I think the current emperor has already gotten it. If I were the emperor, I would sell the blueprint to them at a high price. What? Blueprint? Didn't you just say that you want to protect the core things? Where did that come from? Li Shimin was dumbfounded. Zhang Feng gestured for Li Shimin to calm down. This is your chance to make a fortune. Think about it. Have you given them your core secrets? No. Because I've said it before. Even if Lu Ban was alive, he wouldn't be able to come up with something like this. If that's the case, they can take the blueprint back and let them publicize it themselves. What kind of thing has been imported from the Tang dynasty? This thing is guaranteed to be able to cure the drought. If you were the king of Tubo, would you do that? That's for sure. That way, the people's hearts can be stabilized. Li Shimin slapped his thigh and said excitedly, I know. What you mean is that we should give them the blueprint first and let them publicize it themselves. When everyone in Tubo knows about this, they'll look back and realize that they can't do anything with it. Zhang Feng smiled mysteriously. Then, what do you think they'll do? Li Shimin was so excited that his fists, which were hidden in his sleeves, were clenched tightly. Brother Zhang, what you mean is that they'll really panic at this time, and then we'll take the opportunity to get food from them and pass on the technology? Unscrupulous merchant. What AF * king and scrupulous merchant? Zhang Feng was the most unscrupulous merchant in the world. At this moment, Li Shimin's forehead was covered in a thin layer of cold sweat. Damn it, he would never let this kid do business in the future. He would definitely be screwed. Chapter 81. Li Shimin was not the only one who felt the same way. Wei Zhang's heart could not help but tremble. This Zhang Feng might be all smiles right now, but no one would be able to guess what he was thinking at this moment. This lousy idea was definitely going to get him killed. However, the crowd was also incomparably glad in their hearts. Zhang Feng was lucky to be born in the Tang dynasty. If not for the fact that he was born in Great Tang, if Great Tang were to meet with such an opponent, it would be impossible for them to know that it was the doing of this grandson of theirs. Everyone could not help but want to rope in Zhang Feng more and more. At this time, they looked at Zhang Feng with burning eyes. Zhang Feng trembled all over for no reason. I say, the look in your eyes, F***ck. So after I said so much, you were actually thinking about the girl in your hearts? Zhang Feng wanted to vomit blood. He had been talking for a long time, but when he turned around, not only did he not cheer, but now everyone was looking at him with such a look. Zhang Feng couldn't help but feel angry. He did not want to talk anymore. Cough, cough, cough. Li Shimin smiled awkwardly. Brother Zhang Feng. How could we be thinking about women at such a critical time? What we are thinking is, what are you thinking about in your little head? How could you think of such a rotten idea? Rotten idea? Zhang Feng laughed. This idea, I guessed it according to the characters of the current emperor and Wei Zhang. I can guarantee that the current emperor and Wei Zhang will definitely discuss this matter together now. How could a person like me come up with such an idea? Wei Zhang was angry. Brother Zhang Feng, you said that Wei Zhang is a virtuous minister. Even the top businessmen in the Tang dynasty could not think of such a way of profiteering. How could you think of Wei Zhang in such a way? What's more, His Majesty is an emperor throughout the ages. You. Come on, old Wei. Have you seen Wei Zhang? Or are you really Wei Zhang's brother? Wei Zhang was shocked and quickly shook his head. Then it's settled. You haven't seen Wei Zhang, and neither have I. Zhang Feng glanced at Li Shimin, Zhang Sun Wuji, and Qing Yao Jin, whose faces were red with anger, and asked, have you seen him? No. I have never. Ha ha ha. Yes. Ha ha ha. In the end, Qing Yao Jin could not hold back. He spat a mouthful of wine on Zhang Sun Wuji's face, held his stomach, and laughed. Zhang Feng was a little confused by his laughter. Li Shimin kicked Xing Yaojin hard and also tried to hold back his laughter. Zhang Feng was too cute. If he knew that Wei Zheng was right in front of him and he pointed at Wei Zheng and called him Wei Zheng, he really wanted to see what expression Zhang Feng would have when he smiled at him and introduced everyone present to him. At that time, it would be quite exciting. Zhang Feng looked at everyone speechlessly. He continued, "That's why. If I can think of this, how can the Emperor and Wei Zheng not think of it? Even if the two of them can't think of it, what if Feng Xianling, Du Ruhui, and Zhang Sun Wuji, those guys who are cold on the outside but passionate on the inside? Ahem, especially Zhang Sun Wuji. This guy is also the person I admire the most. Otherwise, how can his son Zhang Sun Chong be the most stubborn person in Chang'an City?" Zhang Sun Wuji was laughing secretly. However, after this, Zhang Sun Wuji's face almost twisted. He hurriedly stopped Zhang Feng. "Brother Zhang Feng, we've gone off topic. Let's talk about how we're going to solve this problem. Isn't that right?" Zhang Feng spread his hands. "I've already said that you guys can't do it. How can you figure out this kind of thing? Well, if you want to hear it, I'll continue. Now that they've gotten their hands on the blueprint, won't the current emperor promote it? Then, when he is full of joy to make this thing, if he can't make it at this time, the emperor will exchange half of Tubo's grain output for this year and next year for technicians. Will he dare to refuse? Didn't you say that the rich merchants have grain in stock? Why do they want this year and next year's grain? Why don't they ask for more? Are you stupid?" Zhang Feng rolled his eyes at Wei Zheng. "This year, they can use the grain in stock to replace it. But have you forgotten? They also have a plague of locusts." "What?" "So, the F***CK, this was where the trap was." Everyone understood. "You mean to say that we should take all the benefits from them first, and then let them sign an IOU? This way, we can kill two birds with one stone. When they can't pay the debt next year, when there's a plague of locusts, they will have to ask us for help. It's like we're firmly tying Tubo's fate to our belt." Li Shimin was exasperated. Such an idea. It was really clever. Not only would it not kill Tubo, but it would also dig a hole for the people of Tubo to jump into. Moreover, it was a good hole, a bottomless hole. Clever. Was this a damn idea that a human could come up with? If that was the case, then, could the Tuyuhan be used in this way? Li Shimin couldn't help but smile excitedly. He revealed a row of white teeth. Chapter 82. If such a method were to be implemented, although it had not been done yet, Li Shimin could already see the result. Tubo would definitely not hand over the grain now. But, if I were to sell this thing, what would happen? He did not dare to think about it. At this moment, Tubo made its move. The Tuyuhan were still observing. If they sold it and spread the news, the Tuyuhan would not be able to sit still. Even the Turks and Persians would not be able to sit still. At this time, they would fall into the trap. Thinking of this, Li Shimin asked anxiously. "Then, this water wheel will be useful to Tubo and Tuyuhan. If the Turks see through our intentions, no." Zhang Feng said decisively, "Old Li, I know that you want to spread the water wheel to the Turks and take them down. But you have to know why the Turks have always existed. They have evolved from the Xiongnu era of the Great Han Dynasty to the present. Even someone as powerful as Emperor Wu of Han could not completely destroy the Xiongnu. So now, do we really think that the Turks are stupid? Also, the Turks are facing a snow disaster now. They have so much water that it is useless. Are they so bored that they want to join in the fun? Are you worried that if the Tang dynasty controls Tubo and Tuyuhan, it will be a threat to the Turks?" Li Shimin, Wei Zheng, and the other three nodded solemnly. "That's right. If this happens, the ones who will suffer the most will be us merchants. Moreover, our main business is in Longyu Road. Therefore, if something happens at the border, the first to suffer will be us merchants. Li Shimin sighed. We have discussed what you said before, but we still can't confirm that it is the Turks. The Turks did not appear in the entire incident. Brother Zhang Feng, don't you think it's suspicious? Suspicious? Zhang Feng smiled. Lao Li, you are worrying too much. I have said that the Turks are facing a snow disaster. I have not said anything else. Well, since we have talked about the snow disaster, let me talk about it. The snow disaster is just the beginning. What? The snow disaster is just the beginning? This. Could it be that there is a follow-up? Zhang Sun Wuji exclaimed. His eyes burned with passion. Right now, they couldn't wait for the Turks to be completely wiped out. Now that they heard that the Turks had a follow-up disaster, Zhang Sun Wuji's thoughts couldn't help but become active. At this time, if they mobilized, then, Lao Sun. Don't you think that if His Majesty were to learn of this, he would immediately dispatch soldiers to sweep away the Turks? That's right. Anyone would think that way about this matter, right? Even a crude person like me, Old Chen, thinks the same way. What is this called? Oh. That's right, we should kill them while they are down. Cheng Yaojin cracked his knuckles. It was as if he was about to charge out and brandish his weapon. Wei Zheng and Li Shimin looked at each other and excitement flashed in their eyes. This was a good opportunity. If they could destroy the Turks in one fell swoop, then, Li Shimin, the Tang dynasty, would be able to become a true emperor. Even someone as powerful as Emperor Wu of Han could not do it. Zhang Feng was speechless. Looking at Li Shimin and the others who were collectively convulsing, he smacked his lips and said, "Sigh, are you all convulsing? We are talking about something. Are you talking about yourselves?" As he spoke, Zhang Feng knocked on the table and said, "Remember. You are all insignificant commoners. You must never, ever, ever speak of this matter to anyone. Or else. Just wait for your property to be confiscated. When the time comes, don't drag me down with you. Really, if I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have said it. It's not that I, Zhang Feng, want to discourage you. Now, if the current emperor thinks the same, then he is gravely mistaken. Especially that reckless Cheng Yaojin." Just when everyone was excited beyond belief, Zhang Feng mercilessly struck a blow to everyone once again. He even said that Cheng Yaojin was a reckless fool. How could Cheng Yaojin sit still? Gritting his teeth, he glared at Zhang Feng and asked, "Didn't I hear from you, little brother Zhang, that Cheng Yaojin was the general you admired the most? How did he become a reckless fool? Today, brother little Zhang, you have to clarify things for us. General Cheng's army is stationed in Longyu Road to ensure the safety of the area. His reputation." Fine, fine, fine. Old Chen, when did you become a chatterbox? Yes, this Cheng Yaojin is indeed one of the three gods of war of the Tang dynasty, but he is very reckless when making decisions. So, your personality is very similar to his. As Zhang Feng spoke, he narrowed his eyes and sized up Cheng Yaojin. Li Shimin was shocked and hurriedly changed the topic. "Brother Zhang, you said that if the current emperor were to issue an edict, it would be a big mistake. Why is that? Is it not the right time now?" "Yes. Now that the Tang dynasty has spread the water wheel and the sacred object, everyone is watching and watching what we do to the Tubo. If the emperor were to send troops now, the Tang dynasty would be greeted by a fully equipped Turkic army." Chapter 83. The Turkic army? Wasn't it said that the Turkic army had suffered heavy losses and that they were experiencing a rare snowstorm? Could it be that the Turkic army also had plans to invade the Central Plains and was just observing? Li Shimin was shocked. If that was the case, then, brother Zhang Feng, is what you said true? Li Shimin looked around with a grave expression. After Cheng Yaojin and the others had shut up, Li Shimin asked again, "If His Majesty really sends troops, I have to make plans first. Otherwise, my family's assets will be completely ruined. As he spoke, Li Shimin actually squeezed out a few drops of tears sincerely. After that, Wei Zheng and the others hurriedly covered their faces with their sleeves and sobbed softly. Qing Yao Jin was even more exaggerated. He directly leaned over the wine jar and wailed loudly. That loud voice and hurried trembling of the shoulders made Zhang Feng's face instantly darken. Each and every one of them was a burly man. They were all men in their 20s. Was there a need for this? Black lines could not help but appear on Zhang Feng's forehead. Fine, fine, fine. Lao Li, don't panic. Can you listen to me first? About this matter, let's start from the beginning. Li Shimin pretended to sob a few times and asked, Brother Zhang. You also know that I and the others have always been generous. We don't have any extra money and have always relied on Long Yu to make a fortune. This time, I am indebted to you for this opportunity. If this time, then, in the future, I will never. Fine, fine. I owe. Lao Li. Zhang Feng's head was about to explode. Did they have to be so effeminate? Could it be that the people of the Tang dynasty were all effeminate? F***ck. Zhang Feng was about to explode. He was about to explode. He didn't care about anything else and said, it's like this. Do you still remember what I said about the current situation around the Tang dynasty? I remember. When Li Shimin saw that Zhang Feng had started speaking seriously, he immediately stopped crying. He said, I remember that you said that if one side took action, it would definitely cause chaos in the entire western regions. Is that true? Yes. And most importantly, whoever moves first will be the first to perish. Moreover, in this part of the world, the most powerful forces are the Tang dynasty and the Turks. Although we have signed a contract, you know how easy it is to tear it up. Now that the Tubo ambassador is here, Tuyuhun must be watching. Do you think the Tujue don't have any spies in Chang'an City? Don't you think that there's something wrong with the Turks not speaking up? Hearing this, Li Shimin was alarmed. Could it be that you're saying that the Turkic Khaganate is currently preparing their army? If we make the slightest move, the Turkic Khaganate will definitely make a move? That's right. Now everyone is watching every move of the Tang dynasty. Now, everyone knows that the Turks are facing a snow disaster. But do you know that summer is coming? The snow is melting rapidly, and another crisis is causing the Turks to panic. What? This matter, I really mean it? Li Shimin exploded. He hurriedly exclaimed. Zhang Feng was shocked. He covered Li Shimin's mouth and said, Ancestor, please keep your voice down. Do you want the whole world to know that we're talking about the state affairs? Hearing this, Li Shimin also suddenly realized and hurriedly shut his mouth. But he still asked, what crisis is there? Isn't this just a snow disaster? Could it be that there's also a plague of locusts there? Zhang Feng was speechless. Don't you have a brain? You're telling me that there are locusts in a place where cows and sheep can freeze to death? Do you think locusts are fools? Can they grow in that kind of place? Then what is it? Li Shimin was dumbfounded. Zhang Feng seriously doubted how these people built their industries. How could they not think of such a simple thing? Let me ask you, Lao Li, Zhang Feng said patiently, tell me, what do the Turks have the most? The most? Li Shimin said without hesitation, I know this. The Turks have developed animal husbandry. Almost everyone in the country is a nomad. Yes. A lot of cows and sheep. But what do their cows and sheep eat? F***ck. God. I got it. Ha ha ha, brother Zhang Feng, I got it. You're saying that cows and sheep can freeze to death, and now the grassland is recovering, but this snow disaster has seriously damaged the growth of the grassland. Is that so? Alas. Zhang Feng patted Li Shimin's shoulder and said speechlessly, Lao Li, you're finally enlightened. That's right. Now, although the snow has melted, haven't you heard of this saying? What saying? At this moment, Wei Zheng and the others were staring at Zhang Feng like curious babies. It's not cold when it snows, but it's cold when it melts. Now, although the snow has melted, but the basic ecology of the grassland has been completely changed. Now, with the freezing water, guess, will the grassland of the Turks be as lush as before? Freezing water. That's right. The snow had melted. But where would the water go? The Turkic Khaganate was basically a flat land, and this freezing water would cause an irreparable disaster to the Turks. This was a real natural disaster. Chapter 84. Why hadn't anyone in the Imperial Astronomer divined anything about this? Li Shimin couldn't help but feel a little scared. If the Tubo incident was not handled properly, it would be a huge blow to the entire Tang dynasty. Tuyuhun would definitely join forces with Tubo at the first opportunity. At that time, even Shui Yintua couldn't stop the Tujue from going south. Li Shimin couldn't help but feel a layer of cold sweat on his back. Brother Zhang Feng, based on what you said, doesn't it mean that we're really treading on thin ice when it comes to the Tubo incident? Don't we have a way to neutralize the threat from the Tujue? No. There's still a way. Actually, there's still one key point missing in this matter. Oh. Little brother, please enlighten me. Wei Zheng hurriedly cupped one hand in the other before his chest. Zhang Feng chuckled. I've said it before. It's up to His Majesty to dig this hole. If this hole is well dug, and the King of Tubo really promotes the water wheel when he gets it, it will definitely cause a commotion in Tuyuhun. At this time, he can't retreat even if he wants to. At this time, if I were Li Shimin, I would play a trump card at this time. What trump card? Wei Zheng and Li Shimin asked almost at the same time. Don't rush, don't rush. Take your time. Zhang Feng gestured for everyone to sit down and calm down. After that, he continued, since I mentioned the Tujue, and the Tujue hasn't said anything until now, I'm sure he won't miss such an opportunity. If the Tang dynasty can eat meat, then he will definitely come to cause trouble at this time. Then how to solve this problem? While they were talking, Zhang Feng picked up a skewer of mutton and looked at it carefully for a while. This mutton is really expensive. I bought 3 kilograms of mutton and it cost me about 3 taels of silver. Huh? What does this have to do with mutton? Could this be, wait a minute. Li Shimin was shocked. He seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said, you mean, we should take this opportunity to buy their cattle and sheep at a low price, or use their continued supplies to exchange for them? Smart. Tisk tsk tsk. I knew it. Our Lao Li's brain is really good. This kind of thing, your guess is right. Perhaps the current emperor has already thought of this matter. This is the key reason why he didn't agree to Tubo's request at the first moment. What? F*ck. This matter. This, Zhang Feng lightly patted Wei Zheng's shoulder to calm him down. Then, he said, for this matter, we only need to take out the provisions given by Tubo and send envoys to the Tujue. Along the way, we will wantonly go to all the tribes and announce that the Tang dynasty wants to exchange their horses, cattle, and sheep with cheap provisions. In this case, when we reach the capital of the Tujue, then you, hee. Although Zhang Feng only chuckled in the end. Li Shimin and the others were not fools. Everyone understood now. By then, a series of chain reactions caused by Tubo would definitely be firmly in the hands of the Tang dynasty. Even if the snow disaster was over and the Tujue resumed production and the grassland was covered with lush weeds again, by then, would they still have horses, cattle, and sheep? No. By then, they would definitely come to the Tang dynasty for help again. This was the most vicious plan of this plan. No. This was the ultimate goal. Not only did the Tang dynasty not pay a single cent, but they relied on a blueprint and some craftsmen to firmly pin down Tubo, Tuyuhun, and the Tujue. In this case, then, Li Shimin's heart could not help but heat up again. The Emperor of the Ages. This was the real emperor of the ages. By then, the Tang dynasty would control the important economic products of Tubo and Tuyuan, and control the productivity of the Tujue. It was equivalent to the Tang dynasty getting 3 long-term labor forces for free. Zhang Feng looked at the shocked faces of Li Shimin and the others. He was satisfied and comfortable eating the mutton and drinking the good wine. His heart was at ease. Needless to say, it was very comfortable. This kind of strategizing was a business model that everyone on Earth knew how to govern a country. This kind of business without any capital was at the fingertips of Zhang Feng in the past. In addition, he was familiar with the history of this era. Who could calculate more than Zhang Feng? However, Zhang Feng still did not dare to make any assertions about the things in the historical records. Everything he said today was only what he understood, and Li Shimin of the current dynasty would definitely have a better countermeasure. However, whether Li Shimin would be wrong or not, he could only take one step at a time. He was just watching Lao Li and the others chat again after drinking. After all, these people would be of great help to him when he activated the system in the future. He also wanted to earn money from sponsored partnerships and marry a wife. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng seemed to have thought of something and released another piece of important news. By the way, Tubo, Tuyuan, and the outbreak of the locust plague in the Tang dynasty did not mean that the locust plague was only concentrated in these 3 places. Everywhere will be affected. For example, India, Nanzhao, and so on will be hit hard. If I were the emperor, do you think I would let go of this opportunity to recruit subordinates? Chapter 85. Li Shimin's eyes flickered. His voice trembled with excitement as he said, "Are you saying that India will also be affected?" "That's right." Zhang Feng hooked his arm around Li Shimin's neck and said with a smile, "When the drought breaks out, I think that India and other countries will also have some places like Longyu Road. When we sell the water wheel, Tubo and other countries will definitely notice the worm eggs. Don't we have craftsmen? At that time, we will publicize the locust plague a little." Hee hee. Publicize, locust plague? Gulp. Everyone swallowed their saliva in horror. If that was the case, then wouldn't India and other countries be in chaos? If we were to launch this package at this time, then, everyone could not help but look at Zhang Feng in a different way. 2 words appeared in their minds. Profiteer. This was the real profiteer. If he did that, damn it, everyone would be trapped by him. A thing that had made Li Shimin unable to sleep every night became a business in Zhang Feng's mouth. It became a package deal. And it was a no-cost deal. Zhang Feng looked at everyone slyly and said, "How about it? How about this deal? Do you have to move? Let me guess. When that time comes, you won't even be able to put the gold bars in your houses in Cheng and city. You have to find a mountain and empty it to store the gold. Are all of your hearts about to fly away now? But let me tell you. This matter has already involved the highest level of the Tang dynasty." At this point, Zhang Feng's voice suddenly became serious. "Regarding this matter, I advise you to keep a low profile and make a fortune quickly. Don't look at other things, don't ask about them, and don't do them. If you don't listen, I think you will die without a burial place." Li Shimin laughed dryly and said, It's not that serious, right? It's not that serious?" Zhang Feng glared and said, "Think about it. How many countries are involved in this? When that time came, which country would not hate the person who came up with the bad idea? At that time, even the Tang emperors won't be able to protect you. You will face endless assassinations." Hiss. Qing Yaojin sucked in a breath of cold air, as if he had a toothache, and covered his mouth in shock. Because at this moment, everyone subconsciously looked at him. I promise, I don't know about this. I won't say anything either. Brother Zhang Feng. If you don't believe me, I'll cut off my tongue right now. Qing Yaojin was also anxious. However, Zhang Feng waved his hand and said, "That's not what I meant. I just want you to know the importance of this and remember your own identity. We're just ordinary people. We'll just make a fortune in silence. Don't worry about other things. His Majesty must have thought of so many things. Otherwise, you would definitely be in the palace now, and not in this small tavern of mine. So, you must pretend that you don't know about this matter, and do what you need to do. Even if people from the government come looking for you, you should hand in the drawings that should be handed in. This is the only way to protect you. Zhang Feng didn't think so much about this matter before. But when he was talking to everyone just now, he suddenly thought of this. He couldn't help but be shocked. That was why he said so much. It wasn't that he was talkative, but that these uncouth people came to inquire about this and that when they had nothing to do. The key point was that they were asking about things that could cost them their lives. He had to make it clear. Otherwise, even before he could activate the system, his life would be lost here for no reason. Li Shimin also knew the importance of this matter. He patted his chest and promised, "Brother Zhang, you can rest assured. Only heaven and earth, you and I know about this matter. Other than this small tavern, I guarantee that no one else here knows about this matter." Zhang Feng was still very assured about Li Shimin. Hugging his shoulder, he laughed and said, "With your words, we can rest assured." Li Shimin was shocked. Seeing that Zhang Feng didn't say anything else, he hurriedly got up and took out 3 large gold ingots, stuffing them into Zhang Feng's arms. "Brother Zhang. As for the thing from before, I will send a servant to pass the remaining 1,000 taels of gold to you later. This is half of the total income." 1,000 taels of gold? How much was this? Zhang Feng was a little confused. He didn't know what this was. However, Li Shimin saw his expression and couldn't help but add, "Don't worry, you have helped me so much. If this Tubo matter is solved, when the time comes, I, Lao Li, will definitely share half of it with you." Everyone was shocked. What did the emperor mean? Half? But at this time, it was inconvenient to say more. Everyone followed suit and said that a servant would send 1,000 taels of gold in the future. Then, they hurriedly left while Zhang Feng was still in a daze. At this time, Zhang Feng was still counting with his fingers. 1,000 taels of gold per person. That means 4 people, that's 4,000 taels of gold. 4,000 taels of gold. What kind of house can you buy in Chang'an City? How many wives can you get? Chapter 86. They walked out of the tavern. The sky was slowly darkening. Li Shimin swept away his good-natured look and looked up at the dark red sky in the west. He asked calmly, official way, "Do you think it's feasible?" "Your Majesty. I think it's feasible." Li Shimin was silent. However, in the depths of his eyes, there was a trace of madness flashing. This was too crazy. If he didn't take this step properly, the Tang dynasty would fall into an abyss of no return. But if he succeeded, he would become an existence that surpassed the Qin Emperor and the Han Emperor. This was an unparalleled honor for every monarch. This was what a son of heaven should do. This was the courage an emperor should have. Li Shimin couldn't help but feel a little scared. If he had refused in the imperial court today, Tubo would have made a move in desperation. What would happen to the Tuyuhan and Turks who were watching? He didn't dare to think about it. If they didn't come up with a plan after the imperial court today, what would happen now? Li Shimin admitted that he didn't think as far as Zhang Feng. Although Zhang Feng kept saying how wise he was, only he knew that he couldn't do all this. Li Shimin wanted to say his idea today. He wanted to get all the food from Tubo in one go. But before he could say it, Zhang Feng vetoed this idea. And he even told him the consequences of doing so. At that time, Li Shimin was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. If he did that, in 5 days, the Tang dynasty's border would break out into war. And it would be the Tubo, Tuyuhan and Turks' allied army. Could he resist them? He couldn't. The Tang dynasty was recuperating now. There were 300,000 soldiers guarding Yuzhou, 100,000 patrolling Chang'an City, 200,000 in Tongguan, 500,000 in Longyu Road, and 200,000 in the south. Other than that, the Tang dynasty didn't have a single soldier. If a war were to break out now, then, would his army of 1.3 million be able to stop the blossoming battlefield? When he entered the palanquin, Li Shimin looked in the direction of the small tavern with a complicated expression and sighed in his heart. Thank you. In the depths of the imperial palace, around Taiji Palace, squads of golden guards were patrolling the area. In the imperial study of Taiji Palace, Du Ruhui and Fang Xianling sat restlessly with serious expressions on their faces. Brother Fang, do you know why His Majesty summoned you? Fang Xianling sipped his tea leisurely. After a moment of silence, he said, I don't know, but it must have something to do with Tubo's visit. Du Ruhui frowned. Haven't we already discussed this matter? Don't tell me. His Majesty went to the tavern? Fang Xianling didn't say anything. He just nodded lightly. No wonder. No wonder the Golden Guards are patrolling so intensely. His Majesty left the imperial palace again. Then, according to what you said, it was the Emperor who summoned us outside? His Majesty has arrived. At this moment, Xiao Gizi's shout came from outside the imperial study. The two hurriedly got up and knelt on the ground. These old officials Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui respectfully welcome His Majesty. You may rise. Li Shimin hurried into the imperial study. Behind him, Wei Zheng, Zhang Sun Wuji, and Xing Yao Jin stood with frosty expressions. After entering the imperial study, Li Shimin waved his hand and said, Official Cheng, take my token and personally guard the imperial study. Xing Yao Jin also knew that he wouldn't understand if he was asked to participate in this matter. He hurriedly bowed and took the token from Li Shimin. This official will not let a single bug in. After that, Xing Yao Jin left with a heart full of joy. After Li Shimin sat down, he waved his hand and gestured for everyone to sit down. He said, this time, we've come to a conclusion about how to deal with Tubo. Wei Zheng, tell them everything. Then we'll come up with a plan. Yes. Wei Zheng bowed and told them everything that had happened. This is what happened. Today, we followed His Majesty out of the imperial palace and went to a small tavern. In the tavern, as Wei Zheng explained, Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui were shocked. What kind of operation was this? Selling the blueprints to Tubo at a normal price? Wouldn't that benefit Tubo? How could they do such a thing? However, as Wei Zheng spoke, the faces of the two men swiftly turned ghastly pale. When they heard that the Turks had entered another calamity, Fang Xianling was so agitated that his body trembled. He almost knelt down and asked for help. However, at this time, Zhang Sun Wuji pressed his hand and also joined in. Li Shimin was still excited when he heard it for the second time. Although this was the tavern keeper's plan, Li Shimin felt that if this plan was carried out, the Great Tang at that time would be something that all the other countries could only look up to. All the countries would come together. What kind of scene would it be? Li Shimin did not dare to think about it. After half an hour of explanation from Zhang Sun Wuji and Wei Zheng, Li Shimin looked at Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui, who were trembling with excitement, and said in a serious voice, You know how serious today's matter is. If even a little bit of it is leaked out, it will bring a great disaster to the Tang dynasty. The four were shocked. They hurriedly knelt down. We will keep our mouths shut. Li Shimin waved his hand. Now, I want an answer. Chapter 87. The answer. Now, Li Shimin's mind was in a mess. If this matter was really done according to Zhang Feng's words, although it sounded simple, it would not be so simple to actually do it. But if they did not do it, then, what would happen? Now, the situation was urgent. Otherwise, why would Tubo stay in Longyu Circuit for 10 days? Moreover, although the plague of locusts could be kept a secret for now, Li Shimin knew that in half a month's time, even if he wanted to hide it, he would not be able to. By then, he did not know what would happen to the plague of locusts in Longyu Circuit. If these things were added, it would only make things worse for the Tang dynasty. And this did not include the Tujue. Now, if Tubo could have spies, what about Tuyuhan? Tujue? Shui Yantua? Li Shimin could not help but feel that the pressure of this matter had increased for no reason. At this moment, Fang Xianling and the others discussed for a while and said, Your Majesty. After a discussion, we feel that now is not the time to ask for grain. Today, Mr. Du and I have investigated the matter of Tubo and Tuyuhan again in detail. It is exactly as Zhang Feng said. Although I don't know where Zhang Feng got this information from, there is one thing that is true. If we ask for grain now, it will definitely cause trouble. The corner of Li Shimin's eyes twitched violently. So, what do you mean? What I mean is that we should follow Zhang Feng's plan. At this point, Fang Xuanling's wrinkled face was trembling with excitement. In this way, Tubo and the others' covetous eyes will be removed and they will be reassured. When the time comes, Tuyuhan will definitely go to Tubo to investigate. And when the time comes, Tubo will definitely announce this in advance to stabilize the people. This way, after stabilizing the hearts of the people, Tubo will enter a period of mass production. At this time, the Tuyuhan will be anxious, and if the Turks want to make a move, they will definitely guess that we have a backup plan. They will also guess what we said to the envoy from Tubo. Are there any other deals? Li Shimin heard this. He nodded slightly. At this moment, Wei Zheng also cupped his fists and said, Secondly, if we do this, we will completely tie down the Tufan Empire. The Tufan Empire will definitely know that we have a backup plan. Moreover, even if the Tufan Empire makes a move, they will immediately intervene. Tuyuhan will also take this opportunity to show his loyalty. The most important thing. Zhang Sun Wuji's voice was hoarse. He said hurriedly, If we do this, we will completely break the balance of the western region. And we can also send our envoys to the Turks' capital and put the bilateral trade on the agenda. In this way, Tubo won't know what agreement we have with the Turks, and the Turks won't know what agreement we have with Tubo and Tuyuhan. The more Li Shimin listened, the more excited he became. But then he frowned slightly. If this is the case, will the balance that Brother Zhang Feng mentioned work? Yes. Your Majesty, think about it. Can they make it? Without the little shopkeeper's guidance, who would have been able to make the key card slot settings for this thing? Wei Zheng smiled confidently. This shopkeeper is really a genius. In this way, we have completely grasped Tubo's lifeline. If he doesn't agree, then they will figure it out themselves. By the time they figure it out, they will have broken out in a large-scale civil war. Your Majesty, do you think that the higher-ups of Tubo will allow this? Li Shimin smiled. This was a good trap. If this was the case, then they would only invest more and more. By then, they would be completely reduced to the cheap labor of the Tang dynasty. They would get their food first. When the locust plague broke out, they would be short of food again. At this time, they could throw out the delicious food plan of the shopkeeper and make a lot of money again. Not only that, they could also directly transport their food to the Turks and exchange it for their top war horses. In this way, for the sake of their stomachs, even if Shieli and Tuli tried to stop them, they would not be able to stop the tribes from starving. By then, they would first exchange the horses, then the cows, sheep, and livestock. When they came to their senses, what would they dare to do? Would they still be warriors when they lost their war horses? By then, the Turks would be the ones who should panic. The more he thought about it, Li Shimin became more excited. Then he waved his hand and said, Send my order. Tomorrow morning, summon, Your Majesty. Wei Zheng suddenly interrupted Li Shimin. A faint smile flashed across his face as he said, Now is not the time. Oh. Why? Li Shimin and the others were a little confused. Wei Zheng smiled mysteriously and said, Your Majesty, you don't have to rush to summon them now. Let them wait. When they are anxious, we will talk about it. We will pretend that we don't know about this. Let this matter ferment for a while, by then. Li Shimin was speechless. However, the people around Wei Jing could not help but take a step back. Too insidious. It was better to stay away from him. But why do I like this plan so much? Chapter 88. In the Honglu Temple. Tubo's envoy. Solons looked at the exquisite delicacies on the table and lost his appetite. He hurriedly grabbed the eunuch who came to deliver the food and asked, "Little eunuch, may I ask when His Majesty will summon us?" The little eunuch did not even lift his eyelids. He looked at Solons indifferently and said with a pout, "I don't know about this." As he spoke, the little eunuch was about to leave. However, at this moment, Solons gritted his teeth and took out a gold horseshoe from his pocket and secretly stuffed it into the little eunuch's hand. He said with a smile, "Little eunuch, I was reckless just now and didn't know the rules. Take this, it's my filial piety to you." The little eunuch's eyelids twitched. He glanced at the gold in his hand and hurriedly stuffed it into his embroidered robe. Then, he smiled like a chrysanthemum. "Oh. Envoy, look at you. Aren't you spending a lot of money? Fine. Since you said so, I'll accept it. To be honest, it seems that His Majesty has been busy with court affairs these days and has no time to care about this." As he spoke, his face was full of embarrassment. He kept rubbing his hands in his hands. How could Solons not understand? He hurriedly stuffed another gold horseshoe into the eunuch's hand and said, "Then, I hope you can help me pass the message. After this, I, Tubo, will definitely reward you handsomely." "Hee, no problem, no problem." The little eunuch weighed the weight of the gold horseshoe in his hand and smiled even wider. "Then, if that's the case, I'll go and arrange it for you." "Thank you, little eunuch. You may stop." Seeing the little eunuch leave, the smile on Solons's face disappeared without a trace. "Brother Solons. It's just a little eunuch. Why do you have to spend so much money?" Someone complained with dissatisfaction. Solons waved his hand and said, "Sauron, you don't understand. You know how important this matter is to me, Tubo. It's already been 3 days. His Majesty, the Tang Emperors, still have no intention of summoning us. Aren't you worried? Do you know that at least 100 people in Tubo die of hunger every day? Aren't you worried?" Upon hearing this, the brawny man named Sauron threw away the wine pot in his hand and coldly snorted. "I think those Tang Emperors are just stingy. Our sincerity is already so obvious. What else does he want? Could it be that he's still angry because of what happened in Longyu Road?" Solons glared at the brawny man, pointed at Suo Ao and said, "Now we are in the Tang dynasty. You have to be careful in everything you do and everything you say. Today, you will supervise Sauron and make him copy 100 times. Big brother." Solons glanced coldly at Sauron. Sauron had no choice but to swallow his words. "Suo Ao, I have a bad premonition. If this matter is really as the state preceptor said, and the Tang Emperors want our food, then it shouldn't be, right?" Suo Ao nimbly put his ear to the bed and listened. After seeing that no one was eavesdropping, he said, "I think it shouldn't be. If the Tang Emperors really wanted to do this, they would have brought it up that day." And that night, Crown Prince Li Qingxian didn't even mention a word about this matter. It can be seen that they were also discussing this matter. Although the drought in Tubo is serious, they don't know the specifics. If they really want food, then we can only do this. While speaking, Suo Ao took out a long firecracker from his arms and weighed it in his hand. Solon slightly nodded. At this time, the little eunuch who had just left hurriedly returned. "Mr. Envoy Solons. I have just inquired about it. Regarding this matter, I have already sent out the 2 horseshoes you just rewarded me with. I also sent out some personal belongings." Without waiting for him to finish speaking, how could Solons not know what he was going to say? He took out 3 pieces of horseshoe gold from his arms and handed them to the little eunuch with both hands. "Eunuch has spent a lot of money. I don't know what eunuch has asked." The little eunuch didn't hide it this time. He took the horseshoe gold and bit it in his mouth, then put it into his arms with satisfaction. The eyelids of the people in Tubo twitched as they watched. After the little eunuch finished tidying up, he said, "I just went to Taiji Palace, which is where the emperor handles his daily affairs. Little Gizi already knows about this matter, but he doesn't seem to have the intention to disturb His Majesty." Doesn't want to disturb? Damn it, it's because the money is too little. Solon suppressed the anger in his heart. He could only search his body, then reluctantly took a pure gold scimitar inlaid with colorful gems from his belt and handed it over with both hands. "Little eunuch, this scimitar was personally bestowed by the emperor. It is inlaid with the best gems from the western region, as well as 10 pieces of horseshoe gold. I hope." Without waiting for him to finish, the little eunuch snatched it from his hands. His smile was filled with joy. "I know about this matter. With these things, the emperor will definitely know about this matter tonight. I hope that all the envoys will have a good rest and wait for the good news." After he finished speaking, the little eunuch hurriedly left. The corners of his mouth were about to reach his ears. As soon as he went out, he turned a corner. He saw little Gizi, who was waiting by Li Shimon's side, looking at the little eunuch with a playful expression. The little eunuch hurriedly knelt on the ground and took out all the things he had received from his arms. "Sir, these are all bestowed to me by them. I don't have a single cent, enough." Little Gizi looked indifferently at the horseshoe gold on the tray next to him, took out a piece and threw it to him. "Since they are stupid and rich, then you can do as you see fit from now on. Tomorrow morning, the emperor will summon them. It's not that I don't sympathize with you, but how much you can get depends on your own ability." Chapter 89. The next morning. It was obvious that there were more soldiers patrolling Chang'an city than usual. In the imperial city, teams of imperial guards stood straight and marched in an orderly manner. Bursts of roars filled every corner of the imperial city. On the road from Honglu Temple to the political announcement hall, teams of Jianghu guards were holding long spears with stern faces and looking arrogantly into the distance. Clang! 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 The morning bell rang 3 times. The eunuch's voice spread all the way from the political announcement hall. "Announce. Tubo's envoy, Solons, seeks an audience with the emperor. Announce. Tubo's envoy, Solons, seeks an audience with the emperor. Announce. Tubo's envoy, Solons, seeks an audience with the emperor." At first, it was a qualified messenger who was announcing. However, as they got farther and farther away from the imperial city, all the Jianghu guards roared at this time. Their voices reverberated in the imperial city. At this time, Solons and the others who were waiting at the side door were frightened by this lineup. They were scared silly. However, they could only bite the bullet and hurried forward with their heads lowered. They couldn't retreat. If they were timid at this time and retreated, then the situation would change. Even if they returned to Tubo, only death would await them. However, Solons and the others were in a more difficult situation at this time. When they came, in order to promote Tubo, they were wearing jewelry. Even their crowns were made of pure gold. The buttons and belts on their bodies were all made of pure gold and embellished with top-grade gems. But now, there was not a single gem on their bodies. There was not a single golden thread to be seen. Even their crowns were made of coarse cloth. Li Shimon noticed this scene the moment Solons and the others stepped into the political announcement hall. He couldn't help but glance at little Gizi and saw that there were more gems on his belt. Li Shimon instantly understood something. He didn't take it to heart. Envoy Solons pays his respects to His Majesty the Tang Emperors. May your Majesty live a long and healthy life. All right, you may rise. Li Shimon was in a great mood. He waved his hand and said, "These days, I have been thinking about how to help Tubo's neighboring countries. However, you also know that my Longyu Dao is suffering from a drought. Now, I have gathered all the skilled craftsmen and resources of the Tang dynasty and used them all in Longyu Dao. Was there no hope? A hint of disappointment flashed across Solon's eyes. However, at this moment, Li Shimon's tone suddenly changed. But the Tang dynasty is a nation of friendship. Tubo and my Tang dynasty are neighbors and friends. Therefore, I have decided to part with my treasure and sell the secret formula to Tubo. Li Shimon emphasized the word sell. After Li Shimon said this, in the court, Fang Xianling, Wei Zheng, and the others couldn't help but feel nervous. When Li Shimon said that he would sell out, Solon's and the others couldn't help but feel relieved. It could be sold. That would be the best. What they were most worried about was that Li Shimon would ask for food at this time. However, now it seemed that they had thought too much. The emperor of the Tang dynasty was very benevolent. Solon's couldn't help but kneel down excitedly and say, "Thank you, Your Majesty the Tang emperors, for saving our lives. My king said that if the Tang dynasty can save our Tubo in time of crisis, our Tubo will definitely reward you greatly after the crisis is over." Wait. At this time, Wei Zheng narrowed his eyes and took a step forward. He and Li Shimon looked at each other, and then said, "Sir Envoy, please accept my offer. Since this matter has been settled, let's proceed according to the previous trade. His Majesty is merciful. As for what will happen in the future, we can forget about it. What do you think?" What? Solon's and the others were shocked. This was really so easy? So easy to negotiate with? Didn't they say that Li Shimon was an old fox? How could he be so easy to negotiate with this time? Moreover, it was the most famous Wei Zheng of the Tang dynasty who came in person. Could it be that they really want to help Tubo? Was my king thinking too much? Solon's eyes turned and he hurriedly bowed again. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Li Shimon waved his hand. Forget it, forget it. I am very gratified to be able to help you." Li Shimon's heart was very excited at this time. Was this the most exciting time? After Li Shimon finished acting tough, he waved his hand and said, "But I don't know about the negotiation. My dear Envoy Wei, you are fully in charge of this matter in this hall. After all, Tubo's allies are in urgent need. Don't delay any longer." How could Wei Zheng not understand Li Shimon's meaning? He bowed and said, "Yes, Your Majesty. Then I will give the price to Tubo Envoy." While they were talking, Wei Zheng took out a piece of paper with a serious face and handed it to Solon's. "This is the price of this blueprint. Do you know how much the Tang dynasty spent to develop this thing? You have seen the real thing. You know better than me how effective it is. Then, I will not waste any time. Take a look at the price I have set. If there is no problem, then we are done." While speaking, Wei Zheng handed the paper in his hand to Solon's. Solon's took the paper and thanked him repeatedly. He hurriedly opened it. But the next moment, his eyes froze. This is impossible. Chapter 90. What's wrong? Let me see. Seeing Solon's body trembling, Ao hurriedly took the paper from his hands. Everyone could not help but gather around. They saw that the paper was densely packed with things that they could not understand. And behind these things, there was a quote. What iron share quoted 3 million taels? Golden Jinan quoted 90 million taels. What was even more ridiculous was that it actually used gold, as well as top-grade jade and gemstones. How many? What was this? They had seen these things before. This thing was made of pure wood. At most, it was mixed with some copper and iron. How could there be a need for a golden thread? Where was the use of golden Jinan? Where was the use of jade? Tubo and the rest could not help but have their faces turn black. Lord Wei. May I ask, what is this golden Jinan used for? When Wei Zheng heard this, he did not even lift his eyelids and said, "This is the core part. It must be made of golden Jinan." Then, the iron share? What is this? We have seen this water well before. May I ask, where is the iron share pressed? This, Wei Zheng also choked. Which damn person wrote this? Wei Zheng glanced at Zhangsun Wuji. Zhangsun Wuji pretended not to see anything. He touched his nose and pretended to whisper to the people around him. Wei Zheng was speechless. This thing is confidential. I have no right to say it. But, after you get the blueprint, you will understand. Then, this jade and gemstones, may I ask Lord Wei, where should these things be inlaid? Solon's face was distorted. And Wei Zheng's old face could not help but turn slightly red. Cough cough. Li Shimin was a little flustered and coughed. This thing was made by Zhangsun Wuji. This grandson, he was too good at bragging, right? Zhangsun Wuji's body trembled. He could only say embarrassedly, this matter was supervised by old man. And all the water wheels are basically made by old man himself. These things must be ground into powder and then sealed up. Otherwise, do you think an ordinary water wheel can have the same effect as this one? Solon's was dumbfounded. Could it be that these things were mixed into the water when it was built? However, this thing seems to be made by us, right? You only gave me a blueprint, right? It turned out that they were trying to extort money. Thinking of this, Solon smiled faintly and said, "Thank you for telling me. I already know about this matter. You only need to leave the manufacturing to us. Then may I ask the price of the blueprint?" Huh. Understood. That would make things easier. Zhangsun Wuji's eyes narrowed into slits. He stretched out his palm indifferently. They had planned all of this in advance. Therefore, the current price was just to see what they could afford. Since this was the case, that would make things easier. Solons looked at Zhangsun Wuji's palm and exchanged glances with the group of envoys. He then asked cautiously, Lord Zhangsun said 5,000 taels. No. Damn it. This old fox. How could Solons not know Zhangsun Wuji? This person came from the military camp. He was cunning and good at attacking people's minds. This time, he finally saw it for himself. Finally, Solons took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Did Lord Zhangsun say 5 million taels? This price." Wrong. I said 50 million taels. Zhangsun Wuji withdrew his hand indifferently and patted his chest, saying, "The Tang dynasty spent more than 50 million taels on this blueprint. This price is already the emperor taking pity on you all. If you all want it." Solons heard this. His eyes flashed rapidly. 50 million taels. This price was worth it. This price was more than 10 times lower than the price set by Tufan kings when they came here. Solons couldn't help but clench his fist with a firm look. Then, it's a deal. Thank you, Your Majesty. Wait. The corners of Zhangsun Wuji's mouth twitched slightly. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, he calmly said 2 words. Gold. When these 2 words were said, even Li Shimin almost stumbled. Too shameless. He was too shameless. 50 million taels of gold? But I like it. At this time, Tubo's envoy was completely petrified. After a while, Solons's chest rose and fell violently and he came to his senses. He said word by word, Lord Zhangsun, isn't it a bit inappropriate for you to do this? Do you really think I, Tubo, am a fool? You actually asked for 50 million taels of gold for a blueprint? Don't you have any shame? Do you know that if I were to take this 50 million taels of gold to India, the people of India, even if they were to mobilize the entire country's strength, they would be able to carry an endless supply of water for me? Also, Your Majesty, aren't you going to do something about it? It's too much. If I, Tubo, could afford it, I wouldn't have to do this. This. Li Shimin smacked his lips twice and said, I don't know how much this thing should be worth. After all, I've allocated 100 million taels of gold for this thing. Li Shimin simply raised the price again. How could the officials, who had been dumbfounded this entire time, not know that the emperor, his eldest grandson, and Wei Jing were putting on an act? They couldn't help but blame Tubo. Then, Tubo's people waved their hands fiercely and said, "Your Majesty, this price is too high. We can't accept it. If your Majesty is really willing to help me, Tubo, how about we discuss it separately and discuss it again in 3 days?" Chapter 91. In fact, Li Shimin was a little worried. He was about to ask if it should be lowered a little. If Tubo was irritated, it would be difficult. But he hadn't said anything, and this guy actually asked for a discussion? So, there was a chance? Good. I think so too. Since both of you have disputes, I've decided that after 3 days, you all will discuss this matter in the political announcement palace. After all, Tubo's friends also need this thing to save their lives. Wei Zheng, Zhangsun Wuji, Fang Xianling, and Du Ruhui, listen to the decree. I accept the decree. I order the 4 of you to work out a suitable price in 3 days. Don't make things difficult for Tubo. Yes. I obey the decree. Then, the court is dismissed. While talking, with his hands clasped behind his back, Li Shimin slowly left with a majestic gait. And everyone knelt down to see him off. See you off, Your Majesty. In the imperial study of Taiji Palace. Li Shimin looked at the list in his hand with a serious face and asked, Zhang Sun, isn't 50 million taels a little high? Zhang Sun Wuji heard this and hurriedly got up. Your Majesty, don't worry about this matter. I don't think we need much in this matter. Li Shimin narrowed his eyes. Why do you say so? Because today he didn't refuse immediately. Haha. Your Majesty, I actually know a little about Tubo's matter. If the Tufan kings didn't give this price, they would definitely turn around and leave today. But they didn't, which means they will definitely send a pigeon back to report tonight. This subject feels that this matter is a success. It was rare that Wei Zheng also said so at this time. Li Shimin had no choice but to put his heart at ease. He was afraid that if this matter was out of control, then the chicken would fly away and the eggs would be lost. Did they spend money on this blueprint? No. He didn't spend a single cent. Instead, he made a huge profit. This time, 50 million taels of gold would make them lower their guard against the Tang dynasty. Then, thinking of this, Li Shimin waved his hand indifferently and said, You can do as you see fit. Remember, when you receive the money, send 1 million taels of silver and a big house to the young shopkeeper. As for the other money, don't mention it for now. Wait until he enters the palace in the future. 1 million taels is too much. Wei Zheng said leisurely. What is it? Li Shimin was a little confused. If we take out 1 million taels of gold now, wouldn't that make little brother suspect our identities? And this thing really can't be sold for that much money. Hearing this, Li Shimin also felt that it was inappropriate. He pondered for a moment and said, You can decide on this matter. You should also pay more attention to Zhang Feng's matter. If it weren't for him, how could we be in this situation today? Everyone hurriedly bowed. We obey. Then, Li Shimin left. After Li Shimin left, everyone couldn't help but laugh. That's so cool. By the way, Zhangsun old man, aren't you too wicked? How dare you write these things? Don't you feel ashamed? Old man was almost embarrassed to death. What a disgrace to a gentleman. Wei Zheng was a little speechless. Zhangsun Wuji smiled enigmatically. Don't you understand this matter? I don't believe it. Take a guess. If I didn't take out this thing, how could the mystery of this thing be created? Believe it or not, now they are definitely thinking hard about what kind of divine thing this thing is in Honglu Temple. Ha ha ha, old man thinks that this is a good move. Du Ruhui stroked his white beard and shook his head. Brother Zhangsun is right about this. From their reaction, we can see that the bottom line of these people is really more than 50 million gold. Old man thinks that this is too little. Zhang Sun Wuji glared at him. Old man, you think this is too little? Why don't you add a little more? You came back 3 days ago to talk about this? That's enough. If it hinders our future plans, then what? If he dares to object, I, old man Cheng, will give him an axe. Fine, fine, fine. You're awesome, you're awesome. Everyone was speechless. However, after that, everyone's faces couldn't help but lament. If it weren't for brother Zhang Feng this time, we would probably be in a terrible fix during this drought. When this is over, let's all submit a memorial and ask brother Zhang Feng to come out of seclusion. How about it? Wei Jing stroked his beard and said. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but nod. However, Du Ruhui hesitated. But His Majesty said that it's not the right time. But what's the right time? Isn't it tiring to do this? Also, His Majesty said that he would send the Crown Prince and the princes to the tavern. What do you think? What do you think? As long as His Majesty sends them, then we should send them too. Wei Jing glanced at everyone and said, this kind of thing should wait until this matter is over. Yes, let's talk about it properly. Whether we want to invite Zhang Feng to the palace or not, we have to get His Majesty's approval first. Everyone fell silent. However, Zhang Feng, the god of wealth, was reserved for everyone. In fact, no one was willing to submit to anyone. At this time, the best way was to send their children to the tavern. However, it was up to Zhang Feng to decide what to do about this. Alright, let's disperse. Let's finish the matter at hand first. Chapter 92. Sunlight. Blinding sunlight. Although it was only May, the weather was as hot as a steamer, roasting the earth. Meanwhile, in Chang'an City. Although it was not noon yet, the number of pedestrians on the streets had gradually decreased. The peddlers on both sides of the street were huddled in the shade listlessly, flapping their clothes. Hey, I say, do you know? I heard that His Majesty summoned Tubo's envoy yesterday. In front of a tea stall. Zhang Feng, who was lazily buying salt, was attracted by that sentence. He sat down, ordered a pot of tea, and slowly listened. The man who spoke turned his eyes. When he saw that someone was listening, he could not help but raise his voice. Guess what I heard last night when I was working the night watch? What? Don't tell me that Tubo's envoy escaped last night? Ha ha ha, someone could not help but make fun of the night watchman when they saw that he was being secretive. The night watchman was anxious. He glared at that person and bared his teeth. What nonsense are you talking about? Tubo is in big trouble this time. I heard that people are eating people now. What? When the crowd heard that, they could not help but perk up and quickly surrounded the night watchman. The night watchman slowly took a sip of tea and said, about that. It started 4 days ago. 4 days ago, His Majesty summoned Tubo's envoy. Tubo cried miserably about being poor. After that, His Majesty softened and agreed to help Tubo yesterday. However, have you heard of Wei Zheng, Lord Wei? Tell us. Stop wasting time. Someone could not wait any longer. Zhang Feng could not help but raise his eyebrows. The night watchman continued, let's put it this way. At that time, guess what happened between Lord Wei Zheng and Lord Zhang Sun? His Majesty is soft-hearted, but who is Lord Wei? He is a selfless person. He asked for this amount of money in one go. As he spoke, the night watchman extended his hand. Everyone was shocked. How much is this? 500,000 taels? The night watchman smiled mysteriously, revealing a mouthful of yellow teeth. It's too little. Everyone was puzzled. How could this be considered little? How much would that be? Could it be 5 million taels? Oh my God. 5 million? This was impossible. I've never seen 10,000 taels in my entire life. How can a solution cost 5 million? don't you agree? This thing was definitely impossible. In my opinion, the biggest possibility is that they want food. Aren't we short on food now? Wouldn't it be better to bring Tubo's grain over? Everyone started discussing again. However, in the end, everyone rejected the idea. No. Food was impossible. Now, Tubo was short of food and they were eating people. How could there be food? Chief Night Watchman Zhang, just say it. How much was it? What do you want? We are all insignificant commoners. How would we know what they want? Yeah. Just say it. The night watchman looked around suspiciously and said in a low voice, I heard from the brothers guarding the city gate that His Majesty gave them a blueprint. I heard that His Majesty received the blueprint from the heavens to help Longyu Circuit during the drought. Lord Wei and Lord Zhangsun echoed each other and bid 50 million taels. Hiss. 50 million? F***CK. That much? How many boxes would it take? F***CK, that's a lot of money, everyone was aghast. However, the night watchman wiped the sweat off his head and said mysteriously, that's what happened, but, do you know what that 50 million taels is? What? Could it be food? At that moment, more and more people were attracted to the night watchman. Even the patrolling soldiers stopped to listen. They seemed to be getting impatient. The soldier took out a copper coin from his pocket and said, Chief Night Watchman Zhang, just say it. This cup of tea is on me. All right. Thank you very much, sir. The night watchman's eyes lit up. He grabbed the copper coin and happily put it away. At this moment, he slowly said, this item is not grain or silver. Sirs, if it is gold, then I will give it to you. If it's gold, it's shiny gold. What? 50 million taels of gold? F***CK, won't the Tang dynasty be rich now? Bullsh**T. The soldier's face turned pale. He did not know if it was true. He went back to his hometown to visit his wife yesterday and did not know about it. However, he could not help but be shocked when he heard it now. He hurriedly scolded, You night watchman. You lie to ghosts at night and people during the day. I'll arrest you and throw you in jail. The night watchman was even more anxious. He hurriedly begged for mercy, Sir, it's all true. As long as you go and ask around, you'll know. Look at the Rouge House over there. The news from there is all coming from the palace. If you don't believe me, you can ask around. Don't talk nonsense. If this is true, how can Tubo agree to it? If everyone spreads rumors like you, won't Chang and be in chaos again? Come with me to the district office. This matter, Zhang Feng shook his head slightly. He took out a copper coin from his embroidered robe and threw it on the table. Then, he lazily left. Along the way, he had heard too many such rumors. Could it be that the emperor had really thought of a way? But this method, why did it sound so familiar? Chapter 93. The news was spreading everywhere in Chang'an City. In the end, it was said that Tubo was going to attack Chang'an City. Just as the whole Chang'an City was engulfed in this rumor, a group of government soldiers arrived in a hurry and put up notices all over Chang'an City. The notice indicated that this was purely a rumor, and the matter slowly died down. However, the people who had just lived a good life were still in a state of panic. They were still whispering in twos and threes. There were even people who were crazily fighting for food and daily necessities. Even the place set up by the officials to sell official salt had countless more people than usual. Zhang Feng had a headache as he bought about 5 kilograms of salt. He was wondering if he should buy more when he saw Old Sun and Lao Li coming out of Yong'an Lane in a hurry. The two of them seemed to be very serious, and they were discussing something along the way. Lao Li's face was so dark that it was about to drip water. Zhang Feng scratched his head, feeling a little confused. But he still waved his hand. Hey! Lao Li! Over here. Li Shimin, who was busy rushing, was stunned when he heard that. But the next moment, when he saw Zhang Feng, his dark face softened a little. He went forward and clasped his fist. Zhang Feng looked at the two of them suspiciously. Are you being chased by thieves or something? Why do you look like that? Sigh. Li Shimin sighed deeply. Isn't that so? We were thinking about whether we should tinker with 1,000 more water wheels and sell them to the diplomatic mission. But then we heard that Tubo is going to attack. What should we do? Oh, right. Li Shimin pulled Zhang Feng to the corner and asked, didn't you say yesterday that this would work? This. Look at this Chang and city. I might even lose my life here. Zhang Feng understood. He laughed and said, so it's about this. Go, go, go. Let's go to my shop. I just happened to come out today to buy some salt. Let's go back to the shop and I'll tell you everything in detail. When Li Shimin heard that, he signaled Zhang Sun Wuji with his eyes. Then, she hooked her arms around Zhang Feng's neck and complained as they walked. On the other hand, Zhang Sun Wuji also subconsciously ordered the Jianghu guards hidden among the commoners to follow them in secret. At this moment, the golden guards with killing intent in their eyes put away their MO swords. Today, they were discussing where the lowest price should be. However, he received a message from the Chamberlain of Dependencies. Last night, 2 members of the Tubo diplomatic mission secretly left Chang and city. Then, early this morning, the news spread throughout Chang and city. Li Shimin was originally very happy this morning. However, when the civil officials in the imperial court asked this question, Li Shimin was so angry that his face turned green. He was prepared to come out and listen to it personally before going to the Chamberlain of Dependencies. But on the way, he met Zhang Feng, who came out to buy salt. Zhang Feng's tavern was not very far from here. It was just 2 turns away. As soon as he entered, Zhang Feng took out a bag of fried food wrapped in lotus leaves from the counter, and then opened a jar of wine. He said slowly, "Old Li, you're the best. About this. Don't be anxious. I know you want to make money, but what about this? You have to take it slow. Don't be alarmed by a little rumor." Li Shimin was stunned and wanted to say something. Zhang Feng pressed his hand and said, about this? I also heard that this is all a rumor. We can spread it. Do you think the Tubo people are fools? Then what do you plan to do? Could it be that this matter was really a misunderstanding? If that's the case, does it mean that we still have a chance? Li Shimin was so worried about this that he pulled out a bunch of hair. If the rumor was true, then he had really screwed up. If he had known about this price, he would have just said a few words yesterday and the matter would have been settled. But now, he was scared. Zhang Feng patted him on the shoulder and said, don't worry, don't worry. Listen to my analysis. Think about this. Yesterday, I heard that Lord Zhangsun and Lord Wei Zheng were going to cheat Tubo of 50 million taels of gold. I think this matter is too small. Huh? Li Shimin was dumbfounded. What kind of situation was this? You still want too little? Zhang Sun Wuji's mouth also twitched. This was too little. Then what was the proper amount? Zhang Feng said calmly, if Tubo really rejected this matter, then it wouldn't be spreading rumors and pressuring the emperor. Li Shimin was stunned. Why? Zhang Feng chuckled. Let me ask you. If you want to buy something, and the price is too high to the point that you can't accept it, will you do it? Then what's the point of doing it? Isn't this obviously bullying? If I... Cough cough. Li Shimin slammed the table and blurted out. But just as he said the word I, Zhang Sun Wuji coughed violently. Li Shimin then reacted and couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. If that's the case, then what's the point of doing it? I'll just turn around and leave. That's right. Zhang Feng clapped his hands and said, if you can think of this, why can't you think of this? Chapter 94. Understand? Li Shimin was stunned. However, Zhang Wuji understood. He said in a low voice, "Are you saying that Lao Li is oblivious to the situation?" "Yes. That's the logic." Zhang Feng raised his wine glass and clinked it with the two of them. He said reluctantly, "But this Zhang Wuji is really a F***king talent. He's so F***king wretched." Hearing that, Zhang Wuji's face turned red. He asked in a muffled voice, "What do you mean?" "Take a guess." "If I was in the imperial court yesterday, I would have given him a thumbs up. This guy dares to say 50 million, he must be a black-bellied master. I only know that Zhang Wuji is the best at scheming, but I didn't expect him to team up with Wei Jing like this. Hey! This effect. I heard all this at the entrance of the palace when I was having breakfast this morning. Zhang Feng was going to marinate some bacon today, so he went to the market early in the morning. When he passed by the entrance of the palace, he had a bowl of dumplings. In just a short while, he heard everything that happened in the palace yesterday. In addition, he wandered around Chang'an City today and instantly understood the meaning behind it. You said that the price is going to be low. What's going on? Zhang Wuji was a little lightheaded. To be praised by Zhang Feng, he was excited from the bottom of his heart. He couldn't help but become talkative. She held Zhang Feng's hand and called him Little Brother Long and Little Brother Short, which made Zhang Feng happy. Zhang Feng patted Zhang Wuji on the shoulder and said, "Zhang Wuji and Wei Jing are a little too cautious about this matter. Tubo is indeed in a difficult situation now, but I guarantee that his treasury must be very rich. So, I guess that when they left the imperial court yesterday, they left a backup plan." Hearing this, Li Shimin and Zhang Wuji looked at each other. He had guessed correctly. Yesterday, Tubo really didn't make any promises. That meant there was room for negotiation. But now, could it be that they wanted to use the pressure of public opinion to make the Tang dynasty relent? Thinking of this, Li Shimin was furious. "Brother Zhang Feng, what do you think will happen if His Majesty raises the price now?" Zhang Feng shook his head, "You can't add it now." "Why?" Zhang Wuji and Li Shimin asked in shock. "Because now that they've spread the news, it means that they're prepared for the worst-case scenario. The attack on Chang'an City is fake, but the attack on the Tang dynasty must be real." "What?" Li Shimin's face suddenly turned pale. Seeing this, Zhang Feng couldn't help but shake his head. "Do you think it's so easy for countries to confront each other? It's like you doing business. What if you can't reach an agreement? Fight. Whoever loses will not only not have to pay, but also get some benefits for free. Who doesn't want to?" Li Shimin was silent. The fists in his embroidered robe were tightly clenched. Fight. Or not. Seeing this, Zhang Feng was a little speechless. This is their business. You're just a little commoner. What are you worried about? Do you want to go to the battlefield and kill the enemy? I seriously doubt what you do, Lao Li. You're always so weird when it comes to these things. Let's not talk about this. You're uncomfortable. To put it bluntly, you're a B***tch. Zhang Feng rolled his eyes at Li Shimin. At this time, Zhang Wuji also lowered his head, but his shrugged shoulders showed that he was trying hard to suppress his laughter. Ahem. Li Shimin glared at Zhang Wuji and said, "Well, you know." Fine, fine, fine. Zhang Feng was speechless. Every time he said this, Lao Li always thought that he was a businessman. If there was a war, it would affect him. He was tired of hearing such things. He waved his hand and did not lower himself to Li Shimin's level. "We can't increase the price now. Instead, we have to lower the price a little." "Why?" Li Shimin's expression changed. Was he really going to admit defeat just like that? Although it was not easy for the Tang dynasty to fight again, Li Shimin was not afraid. If anyone dared to do that, then what dignity would the Tang dynasty have left? Seeing this, Zhang Feng was speechless. Can you let me finish? Why do I feel that you're like a little wife now? You're always so flustered. What's the matter? You're such a pervert. If I were that person in the current dynasty, I would lower the price by 5 million to 10 million gold taels. But this is not the end. This is only the first step. We have to put him in a trap. My disciple once said something. I don't know if you've heard it before. What is it? Who's your disciple? Li Shimin and Zhang Sun Wuji's eyes lit up and asked in unison. Zhuge. Zhang Feng spread his hands. Retreat in order to advance. We'll take a step back now, but they'll be proud of it and spread the word for us everywhere. When the time comes, hee. This, Li Shimin suddenly remembered what Zhang Feng said earlier. He hurriedly said, You're saying that you want to use them to trap the Tuihun? Sigh. What do you mean by trap? That's not nice to hear. It's like this. Zhang Feng smiled slyly, but his expression suddenly became serious. This small step today is to take a big step forward in the future. Chapter 95. Taking a small step backward? Taking a big step forward for the future? This was, Li Shimin was shocked. Zhang Sun Wuji was also shocked. His blood was boiling. What kind of situation was it that he could come up with such a sentence? Brother Zhang Feng, this is what you said? Yes. I thought of it by chance. It's nothing. Come, let's drink. Zhang Feng said evasively. Then he changed the topic. This was not something that he came up with. If he had the ability, why would he be here? This was all because of the commercials in the future. Zhang Feng subconsciously raised his head and looked at the sky and the moon outside the window. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's continue talking about this matter. Although we have taken a step back in this matter, everything that we did when they were in danger, in the future, no matter what we do, it will not be us who let Tubo down. When that time comes, it will be them who asked for it. What do you mean? Li Shimin's eyes flickered. Because, Zhang Feng stood up. He picked up his wine bowl and walked to the window. Looking at the glaring sunlight outside the window, he said calmly, If I were anyone in the current dynasty, I would not even ask for money. However, if they are still bargaining about the food, then they are really shameless. We will just chase them out and do whatever they want. This, Li Shimin hurriedly asked, Isn't this a little too much? Too much? Have you told me? Haven't we already given in? We have already given in. If they continue to be so shameless, then the Tufan kings won't feel embarrassed. If they are shameless, then why should we give them face? When the time comes, we will just ignore them and do whatever they want. The one who will suffer is Tubo, not us. What's there to be afraid of? It made sense. In an instant, all the doubts in Li Shimin's heart disappeared. If that's the case, we'll take a step back with the help of this rumor. But if we take a step back, we won't be too soft-hearted when it comes to food in the future. Since they were the ones who sought death first, what was there to be afraid of? At that time, if a war really broke out, he would have to think twice. And this wasn't just Tuihun. As long as this matter got out, Tuihun would definitely come to ask for help. The only people he could ask for help were the Turks. However, the Turks lacked food. At this time, if they asked the Turks for help, they were not stupid. The Turks were definitely more ruthless than the Tang dynasty. Because this matter had already spread, he could not deny it even if he wanted to. When the time came, he could only obediently come back and ask for help from the Tang dynasty. After thinking it through, Li Shimin's mood calmed down. He patted Zhang Feng's shoulder excitedly and said with a complicated look in his eyes, Sometimes, I really don't understand what kind of person you are. Not only does he have such a clear and sharp understanding of the current situation, but he also knows how to rule a country like this, playing everyone in the palm of his hand. Who exactly are you? Zhang Feng heard this. He was amused. I've said it before. I'm a cultivator. Stop. Li Shimin knew that he was going to talk nonsense, so he speechlessly interrupted him. He picked up a bean and threw it into his mouth, crunching it. Brother Zhang Feng. I really want to help you. After doing business for so many years, I know a lot of officials, big and small. And now, I basically know a few in the court. And maybe when the emperor is happy, he will summon me. Just tell me, what official position do you want? At this time, Zhang Sun Wuji put down the wine bowl and looked straight at Zhang Feng. This is the emperor's order. Little brother, your chance is here. However, he could only be anxious in his heart. He did not dare to say it out loud. Since the emperor did not want to reveal his cards at this time, he could not say anything more. Zhang Feng was also a little moved at this time. He could not stay in this small tavern forever. Once the system was activated, he would definitely walk out of this small tavern. Otherwise, he would have already opened this small tavern and made it popular. A few modern dishes would be enough to charm people, let alone other things. But he also knew that he was not cut out for business. The reason why he opened this small tavern was, on the one hand, to wait for the system. On the other hand, it was also because he could chat with Lao Li and others. Although Chang and city seemed to be prosperous, he was nothing except for being eloquent. If he really did it or entered the undercurrent of the court, without the protection of a golden finger, a person like him who had no status and background would not be able to live for more than a year. Therefore, after thinking about it, Zhang Feng still shook his head. I haven't thought about it yet. While talking, Zhang Feng filled Li Shimin and Zhang Sun Wuji's cups and waved his hand coolly. This matter, forget it. Let's talk about it when I have thought about it. The time is not right yet. If one day I decide to mix in the court or do business, I will definitely let you know. Li Shimin heard this and could only shake his head helplessly. That's fine. Since you said so, I won't force you. This matter has to be done slowly. We still have a long way to go. But there is one thing. Li Shimin raised his cup and said, if you are successful in the future, don't forget me. Chapter 96. Zhang Feng waved his hand again and again. Fine. Are you, Lao Li, looking down on me? Am I that kind of person? Li Shimin smiled and clinked his wine bowl with Zhang Feng. He put down his wine bowl and asked with a frown, based on your ability, there are so many rich businessmen in Chang and city who are willing to partner with you. I, Lao Li, estimate that if you want to line up, you can at least line up outside Chang and city, right? Why do you? Zhang Feng rolled his eyes and waved his hand. Since you said so, I really have to tell you. There are indeed many famous businessmen in Chang and city. If I want to be an official, with your help, I will certainly live a good life. But you only know one thing and not the other. Is there something you can't tell me? Li Shimin motioned Zhang Feng to continue. Zhang Feng smacked his lips, grabbed a piece of food and threw it into his mouth. He said, on the one hand, now is indeed not the right time. I can't say for sure. But on the other hand, as you can see, I am used to being lazy. I definitely can't do business. Speaking of business, aren't we partners now? Li Shimin smiled and didn't say anything. Zhang Feng continued, in the past 6 months, I know what kind of person you are, Lao Li. Although sometimes you are very stubborn, your character is really impeccable. You are a trustworthy person. I don't feel at ease if I find someone else, and I don't have the time to understand them. Only you, Lao Li, have a good temper. Secondly, you also know that my willingness can't be bought with money. Hearing that, Li Shimin was inexplicably touched. Since he became the king of Qin, everyone was respectful to him and obeyed his orders. He was also a human being. He was also a person with feelings. If others were depressed, they could find someone else, but who could he find? This was not the main point. Most importantly, in the end, he realized that none of the people around him were truly trustworthy. He had become a loner in this life. It wasn't until half a year ago when he walked into this inconspicuous pub that he slowly made friends with Zhang Feng. At this moment, Li Shimin had an illusion. Being treated as a close friend by Zhang Feng seemed to be a very happy thing. Involuntarily, Li Shimin and Zhang Feng clinked their glasses and drank a full bowl. Come come come. Brother Zhang Feng, for this, let's toast. As he spoke, Li Shimin pulled Zhang Feng and drank the wine in the bowl until not a single drop was left. That warm atmosphere made Zhang Sun Wuji's eyeballs pop out of their sockets. He was completely dumbfounded. Was the emperor drunk? Or am I seeing things? Since when did the emperor become so approachable and easy to get along with? Although the emperor had been very approachable to them all these years, there was still a limit to how much he could treat them. However, his attitude was different from Zhang Feng's. The emperor treated Zhang Feng as his closest and best brother. It seemed that this little shopkeeper had really hit the jackpot. Young man, you have a bright future to be able to gain the emperor's favor. At this moment, the two of them put down their wine bowls. Zhang Feng cheered loudly. Then he shouted loudly, when the wine is served, don't stop drinking. Cooking sheep and slaughtering cattle for pleasure, must drink 300 cups at once. Life must be full of joy. Don't let the golden goblet be empty to the moon. I am born to be useful. Money will come back after it is spent. Zhang Feng was excited and slowly recited the poem, when the wine is served. Li Shimin was also shocked. Although he had never heard of this poem. But this poem and the mood of these few lines made him involuntarily hum along. Zhang Sun Wuji quickly got up and poured wine for Li Shimin and Zhang Feng. The two of them looked at each other and laughed loudly. Zhang Feng suddenly raised his voice by another syllable. When the wine is served, don't stop drinking. I will sing a song with you, please listen to me. Bells and drums are not expensive, I hope you will be drunk and never wake up. Since ancient times, sages have been lonely, only those who drink will leave their names. Colorful horses and golden coats will be exchanged for good wine, and with you, we will share the worries of eternity. The voice fell. But at this time, the three people in the small tavern were completely ignited by this poem. Although until now, Zhang Feng still didn't say why he didn't want to enter the imperial court as an official and why he didn't do business to expand his business, this poem already contained a lot. As the last sentence fell, Li Shimin and Zhang Sun Wuji's eyes were filled with tears of excitement. Who hasn't been young and frivolous? Who hasn't wanted to travel the world with a sword? They had all experienced wars of blood and fire. At this moment, because of a poem, they actually felt a kind of unprecedented freedom and straightforwardness. Good wine. Good poem. Li Shimin excitedly patted Zhang Feng's shoulder and drank another big bowl of wine with him. Then, Li Shimin's heart warmed up. He grabbed Zhang Feng's arm and said, Good brother, since this is the case, as your brother, I won't force you. But no matter if you become an official or do business in the future, I will support you. Good. Zhang Feng nodded heavily. Lao Li. This is what I like the most about you, you care about your feelings. Even if you didn't say it today, I would have done it. In the future, if I have a bite to eat, I, Zhang Feng, will not forget you, Lao Li. Good, good, good. Good brother. Li Shimin's heart warmed up. He grabbed Zhang Feng's hand and pulled him out. Let's go. Follow your brother to become sworn brothers. Chapter 97. Cough, cough. Cough, cough, cough. Zhang Sun Wuji was shocked. His Majesty wanted to become sworn brothers with him? What kind of game was this? Was His Majesty drunk? He hurriedly coughed to remind him. Seeing that there was no reaction, Zhang Sun Wuji hurriedly raised his wine bowl and said, Lao Li. If you want to become sworn brothers, there's no need to rush. You should hire a master to calculate your birth characters and then choose a good day, right? Come, come, come. Brother Zhang Feng, I, old son, propose a toast to you. You said that taking a step back is to take a big step forward. That's great. As he spoke, Zhang Sun Wuji blocked Li Shimin and then pulled Zhang Feng. This move surprised Li Shimin and he quickly remembered the purpose of today's meeting. He smiled embarrassedly and said, Old son is right. I'm drunk. Come, 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 let's continue. Zhang Feng was stunned. But he didn't care. Seeing Zhang Sun Wuji raise his wine bowl, Zhang Feng also raised his bowl and said dizzily, Okay. Everything is in the wine. Drink. As they spoke, the three of them clinked their glasses. Zhang Sun Wuji hurriedly changed the topic. Brother Zhang Feng, just now you said that if Tufan can't produce it, and if we ask for food at this time, they might settle the score with us afterwards. How do we solve this? When Li Shimin heard this, the excitement in his heart was instantly extinguished. They were too naive just now. Now that Zhang Sun Wuji said this, there really was a problem. That's right, brother. If we do this, won't we be helping them? Tubo is a pack of wolves. Li Shimin was also anxious. Zhang Feng smiled faintly. Take it slow. About this. I said you guys are stupid, but you guys really aren't smart. You can't think of this, but the current emperor can. Could the emperor have thought of this? Li Shimin couldn't help but blush. It would be great if we could think of that. All right. When Zhang Feng saw their dumbfounded expressions, he knew that they really didn't expect this. He smiled mysteriously and said, Let me sort this out for you. If right now, Lao Li is the emperor, and old son, you, can be Zhang Sun Wuji. If you were the two of them, how would you solve this problem? The two of them looked at each other, their eyes filled with shock. If I were that person, if I knew that they were plotting against me, I would definitely not give them craftsmen. Li Shimin thought for a while and finally nodded firmly. Perhaps this was the best way to deal with it. Zhang Sun Wuji thought for a while and nodded in the end. When Zhang Feng saw this, he was a little speechless. You guys really aren't cut out to be officials. Don't you understand the meaning of what I said before? Let me put it this way. Zhang Feng said frankly, if I were the current emperor, not only would I still give craftsmen, but I would also send out all the people that the Tang dynasty can send out. Chapter 98. When Li Shimin heard that, he staggered and almost fell to the ground. Looking at the slowly closing door of the tavern, he was so angry that he laughed. Am I really such an impulsive person? Zhang Sun Wuji did not speak. His face was tense, but his face was flushed red. Li Shimin glared at Zhang Sun Wuji. That emperor's aura made Zhang Sun Wuji tremble. He hurriedly said, Your Majesty, I didn't laugh. Really, I promise. I didn't laugh. Come on. Brother Zhang Feng, do you think this method will work? Will it go for wool and come back shorn? Li Shimin ignored Zhang Sun Wuji and asked worriedly. Zhang Sun Wuji took a long time to stop laughing. His face slowly became serious. He was a little guilty about this matter. If it was not handled properly, it would really be a loss. Now, the Tang dynasty had finally entered a rare period of recuperation. If they raised a tiger because of this matter, it would really not be worth the loss. Thinking of this, Zhang Sun Wuji said, I think there shouldn't be a problem with this. The problem is whether the people we send are loyal or not. If we look at it from a military perspective, this method is indeed effective. Really, Li Shimin was a little silent. He was not afraid of war. In fact, he was looking forward to it. However, the current situation made it impossible for him to fight. That was why Li Shimin was so worried. If they fought this war now, the taxes that the Tang dynasty had just reduced would skyrocket again. The people could not bear such a torment. Besides, they had only just begun to treat the drought in Longyu Circuit. While they could see the effects, they weren't too obvious yet. If they were to start a war now, it wouldn't benefit Great Tang in the slightest. On the contrary, it might even lead to its downfall. The more he thought about it, the more worried Li Shimin became. When he raised his head, the Vermilion Bird Gate was already right in front of him. However, at this moment, Li Shimin suddenly remembered what Zhang Feng had said before he left. He could not help but ask, "Zhang Sun, do you still remember what Brother Zhang Feng said when we left?" "What did he say?" "No." Zhang Sun Wuji said subconsciously, but before he could finish, he continued, "I remember that he said he wanted to make salt." "Making salt? He can make salt?" Zhang Sun Wuji also recovered. His two exclamations made Li Shimin shiver. Making salt? Li Shimin was shocked. He never thought that this Zhang Feng also knew how to make salt. Wasn't salt cured by the salt-making division? Didn't he just go to buy salt? Why is he still making salt? Li Shimin was a little confused. However, based on his understanding of Zhang Feng, this guy was definitely not that simple. Li Shimin could not help but wave his hand and say, "Let's not talk about this for now. Next time we go, we'll ask him properly. Do you think he has a different way of making salt? Just like the worm eggs and the strange things that we've been eating during this period of time. How much does he know?" About this, Zhang Sun Wuji also hesitated. This Zhang Feng was a mystery. He could always make some strange things, such as the wine and the fried locusts. In the past, who would dare to eat worm eggs? But now? In the entire Chang'an city, this toy had become a sought-after toy for the rich. However, just a few days ago, he actually made some roasted mutton skewers. This thing made Zhang Sun Wuji drool. No matter how he went back and asked the chef to make it, he could not make it taste like what he wanted. Now, they heard another novel thing. This time, the two of them were stunned. Now, salt in the Tang dynasty was basically a luxury item. Many people could not afford it. However, he clearly saw Zhang Feng go to buy salt. Could it be that he could still make some other tricks? Li Shimin and Zhang Sun Wuji could not help but have a look of shock in their eyes. Let's not talk about it. Let's go back to the palace and finish the things at hand. Li Shimin thought hard and said, "If Zhang Feng can really make something good at this critical time, I think the situation in the Tang dynasty will change. Pass down the order. Ask Wei Zhang and the others to quickly enter the palace." Li Shimin did not think too much. Then, he waved his hand, and the sedan, surrounded by the Jianghu guards, entered the Vermilion Bird Gate. In the imperial study, there were many more guards than usual. Qing Yaojin moved a stool and sat at the door of Taiji Palace, majestically carrying two big axes. All the palace maids and eunuchs who passed by trembled in fear when they saw Qing Yaojin's big bell-like eyes. They hurriedly took a detour. At this moment, a man in a purple robe hurried in from the back door of Taiji Palace. Qing Yaojin raised his axes and was about to give the order to arrest him when Li Shimin came out. Not only was he not angry, but he looked at Qing Yaojin with a smile and said, "Old Black, you've worked hard. Come in with me." Qing Yaojin was dumbfounded. He was ordered to guard the imperial study. Before the emperor returned, no one was allowed to enter. When he left, the emperor's face was full of anger, but why was he in such a good mood now? Qing Yaojin was dumbfounded. He watched in a daze as Li Shimin entered the imperial study. Then, he threw away his axes with a clang and walked into the imperial study. He shouted as he walked, "Your Majesty, wait for me." Chapter 99. After a while. After receiving the secret report from the Jianghu guards, Wei Zhang and the others hurried into the imperial study. As soon as they entered, they saw Li Shimin writing on the desk with a solemn expression. Zhang Sun Wuji and Qing Yaojin were staring blankly at Li Shimin's back. As soon as they entered, Zhang Sun Wuji shushed them and said, "Don't make a sound." As he spoke, Zhang Sun Wuji smiled and gestured for them to continue. What was going on? Wasn't the emperor furious when he left the palace this morning? Now, why did he have the leisure to write something? Could it be that the emperor wanted to kill Tubo's envoy? What Tubo's envoy did in Chang'an city last night and what happened in Chang'an city today really angered the emperor. Wei Zheng glanced at Zhang Sun Wuji with a grave expression. Then, he walked forward and was about to interrupt Li Shimin. However, at that moment, he saw the writing on Li Shimin's desk. Instantly, he was shocked. One must enjoy life to the fullest. Don't let the golden goblet face the moon empty. I am born to be useful. Money will come back after it has been spent. Cooking sheep and slaughtering cows for pleasure. Drinking 300 cups at once. Drinking wine, don't stop. Let me sing a song with you. Please listen to me. This was, His Majesty wrote this. What a good poem. Your Majesty. If the Confucian officials in the imperial court knew about this poem, they would definitely be convinced by Your Majesty. After Li Shimin finished writing the poem, Du Ruhui and the others praised him repeatedly. Even the great writers of that time couldn't have written such a poem so freely. How could an ordinary person compose such an artistic conception? I feel that if Your Majesty's poem is listed as the subject of the imperial examinations in the future, the scholars of the future would be proud of it. Li Shimin took a deep breath and waved his hand. What do you think of this poem? Wonderful. Wonderful beyond words, Your Majesty. This poem only exists in the heavens. Li Shimin shook his head. This was not created by me. Everyone was shocked. Not created by His Majesty? Could it be, Your Majesty, could it be that this poem was created by Zhang Feng? That's right. Li Shimin looked at the poem on the desk with a complicated expression on his face. He felt that the poem was incomplete, but because of this, he was even more eager to keep Zhang Feng by his side. He, Li Shimin, was also someone who loved poetry and songs. This kind of beauty was really unable to be expressed with words. He made up his mind. In the future, he would definitely get Zhang Feng to write 180 poems for him. When the time came, all the countries would come to pay homage to him. Not only would he be able to promote the culture of the Great Tang, he would also be able to spread his name even further. But he also knew that this was a story for the future. He waved his hand and said, "This time, I called you all here because of Tubo. Today, I met Zhang Feng in Chang'an." What? Could it be that he knows Your Majesty's identity? Wei Zheng was shocked. Qing Yaojin was dozing off. He didn't understand any poems, but when he heard this, he immediately became alert. Your Majesty, do you want me to bring Zhang Feng to the palace to meet His Majesty? Li Shimin rolled his eyes at Qing Yaojin. It's not what you think. While speaking, Li Shimin told him about his encounter with Zhang Feng. As he spoke, he couldn't help but laugh. Then, Li Shimin's voice became serious. This time, Wei Zheng summoned them to meet tomorrow to discuss Tubo's matter in Taiji Palace. As for the price, 10 million taels is my bottom line. Your Majesty, you mean to increase it by 10 million? No. Reduce it by 10 million. What? Reduce it? How can this be? These bastards, if it weren't for the wind and rain in Chang'an city last night, I would have skinned them alive. How can they? Shut up, old hay. Let His Majesty finish. Zhang Sun Wuji scolded Qing Yaojin lightly. Qing Yaojin sat on the chair angrily and didn't say anything, but his fists were clenched so tightly that they made cracking sounds. It seemed that as long as the emperor gave the order, he would rush to kill the enemy. Wei Zheng and the others weren't in a good mood either. No matter who it was, it would not feel good to be tricked behind their backs. Li Shimin also understood everyone's feelings and said faintly, "This matter is settled. You have to remember one thing, the retreat now is only for the sake of a more advantageous step forward in the future. Buzz. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but hear a roar in their minds. The retreat now was only for the sake of a more powerful step forward in the future? This, everyone was stunned. Damn it, was this the philosophy of Confucianism? The retreat now is only for the sake of a more powerful step forward in the future? This, Wei Zheng was shocked. Fang Xianling and Du Ruhui were also shocked. Everyone looked at Li Shimin in disbelief. With their attainments in Confucianism, they could instantly understand the meaning of this sentence. They were just shocked that although His Majesty's words seemed easy to understand, what kind of Confucianism philosophy was contained in it? Even if it was a great Confucian scholar from ancient times to the present, it was impossible for him to say such words. Sure enough. His Majesty really hit it well. How could he understand such words from this poem? How much wisdom was His Majesty hiding? However, at this moment, Li Shimin took a deep breath and said, "This is what the shopkeeper said." Chapter 100. After that, Li Shimin told Zhangsun Wuji everything that happened today without hiding anything. At this time, in the imperial study, Fang and Du, who were known as Li Shimin's right-hand men, were completely stunned. After a long while, they said in a trembling voice, "Your Majesty, this is a good plan." Wei Zheng paced in the imperial study for a while and said in a dignified voice, "Your Majesty, although this is a good plan, Tubo will definitely guard the craftsmen strictly when they arrive. This is a good plan, but we have to come up with some countermeasures. Otherwise, if our people are not determined enough and are instigated to rebel, then..." Li Shimin thought for a while and nodded. "Zhangsun Wuji, tell me your opinion." Zhangsun Wuji stood up. "Your Majesty, Your Excellency Wei, I didn't have any countermeasures before, but after Your Excellency Wei said this plan, I suddenly had a flash of inspiration. What do you think? If we select some of our trusted people from all over the country and let them go, Your Majesty, when we let them go, we can strengthen their sense of belonging to the Tang dynasty. In this way, we can let them settle down in Tubo and let them spread their branches in Tubo and settle down in Tubo." Zhangsun Wuji's eyes flashed a fierce light. "This way, we can lower their guard. Moreover, we can make them become our nails in Tibet. They don't have to do anything and just live their lives. However, if we were to go to war with Tibet, at that time, these 100,000 people will play an immeasurable role." This old subject believes that this should be Brother Zhang Feng's final thought on this matter. Hiss. Li Shimin gasped in horror. Even Wei Zheng, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, and Qing Yaojin stood up in horror at this time. This plan was too vicious. However, this was an absolute measure just in case. If the craftsmen were replaced by soldiers, then, in the future, if nothing happened, they could still assimilate Tubo, develop their forces unknowingly, and become the backbone of the Tang dynasty. This was a plan that would make a lot of money with little capital. Good plan. Li Shimin slapped the desk excitedly. "My dear ministers, do you think this plan is feasible?" "Your Majesty. I think it's feasible. The Tubo Tuhan Turks are all ambitious wolves. If we send people to Tubo, Tubo will think of a way to keep them here. Why don't we go with the flow and let them settle down in Tubo and become our nails? There will definitely be a war between us and Tibet. However, at that time, if our 100,000 people explode in their territory, the effect of that will be much better than a 500,000 army charging at them head-on. Your Majesty. I, Old Cheng, am willing to go to Tubo personally." Li Shimin waved his sleeves and said sternly, "All of you, listen to the decree. If we start now, how long will it take for the 100,000 soldiers to learn? Your Majesty, 1 month is enough." 1 month, at this time, the matter with Tubo had not been settled yet. It would take 5 days to travel from here to Tubo. When they returned, they would definitely have a result within 10 days. If that was the case, 1 month would be enough. Li Shimin said solemnly, "Pass down the decree." Wei Zheng, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, Zhangsun Wuji, and Qingyao Jin, listen to the decree. I order all of you to gather all of you from Longyu Dao and other places and start the training immediately. Zhang Sun Wuji. Order Li Jing and the other generals to secretly select 200,000 people from the various armies. Spread them out and enter Longyu Dao in batches to learn this technique. We must finish this before Tubo's envoy enters Cheng and again. Yes, Your Majesty. Your Majesty. After the decree was passed down, Wei Jing hesitated and asked, what about Honglu Temple, that side? Li Shimin frowned slightly. Let them be first. Since they are not loyal, I do not need to give them any face. Since they can create rumors, I do not believe that my people are all brainless people. After thinking about it, a smile flashed across Li Shimin's face. He looked at Qingyao Jin and said, Old Black, I have a mission for you. Qingyao Jin heard this and knelt down on one knee. Your Majesty, just tell me who to kill. I, Old Sheng. I am not asking you to kill. You fool, why do you always want to kill? Your wife's birthday is coming up, right? I order you and your wife to gather all the wives of the officials in Cheng and city and spread the news. Brilliant. This is what I call brilliant. Using the womenfolk's mouths, using the gossip of the common folk, to resolve this matter without anyone noticing. Brilliant. The emperor is indeed the emperor. Everyone could not help but secretly give Li Shimin a thumbs up. Qingyao Jin scratched his head. Was he asking his wife to make a scene? However, when he thought of his wife's mouth, Qingyao Jin rubbed his hands. How could Li Shimin not know what was on his mind? He waved his hand and said, I will give your wife a secret decree. You just need to follow the decree. Ask Zhang Sun about this matter. Okay. Chapter 101. Another 3 days passed. The rumors in Cheng and city gradually subsided. Meanwhile, in Honglu Temple, Solons and the others could no longer sit still. No matter how they inquired and even used up all of their wealth, they did not get a single piece of information they wanted. They even suddenly felt that everyone in the Chamberlain of Dependencies was looking at them in a different light. They were no longer as respectful as before. Instead, there was a hint of coldness. Just as they were feeling uneasy, they received a summons from the emperor. They saw that the old eunuch leading the group was wearing Solons's favorite belt. His expression changed involuntarily. However, at a glance, they could see that the group of eunuchs were wearing their belongings. This time, they could not remain calm. Fortunately, someone quietly told him that the leader was the personal eunuch of the Tang emperors. Suddenly, Solons hurriedly bowed. Tubo's envoy, Solons, greets eunuch Xiao Gizi. Xiao Gizi looked at Solons with a smile that did not reach his eyes. You're too polite, Lord Envoy. I'm just here to pass on a message. At this point, Xiao Gizi's voice turned cold. He said, Today, the emperor is feeling unwell because of this matter, so he specially ordered me to come and summon you to the palace. Enter the palace? Did that mean that the matter had been settled? Solons was overjoyed when he heard that. Every 2 hours they stayed in Tubo, who knew how many people would die in Tubo. Now that they had been summoned by the emperor, did that mean that the matter had been settled? Solons hurriedly bowed in joy. Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty. Thank you, eunuch. As he spoke, Solons searched his guts and took out an ingot of gold. He handed it to Xiao Gizi with both hands. Thank you for your help these days, eunuch. I hope you can buy some wine for me. If I return to Tubo, I will definitely give you a big gift. Xiao Gizi glanced at the ingot and smiled playfully. Thank you, Lord Envoy. Little Romzi, accept it. Quickly thank the envoy for his reward. Hearing this, a 15-year-old eunuch behind Xiao Gizi happily took the gold ingot from Solons. Although Solons was a little angry, he still smiled. This old thing was complaining that the money was too little. But, from head to toe, you belong to me. Do you think I'm a fool? However, he didn't dare to say these words. She could only sullenly lower her head and follow little Gizi to the palace. At this moment, within Taiji Palace, it could be said that all the eloquent people of the Tang dynasty had arrived. Even the person who was the best negotiator in the imperial court was sitting proudly in the middle of the hall with a righteous expression. Wei Zheng saw everyone's reaction. He cupped his fists. My lords, you all know that this matter concerns the reputation of the Tang dynasty and the value of this blueprint. Therefore, I hope that all of you will mind your words. Lord Wei, since you and Lord Zhangsan have entrusted this matter to us, you can rest assured. We don't think we're senile enough to negotiate with you. That's right. This damn Tubo. You came to ask for help, so you should act like you're asking for help. And you even spread rumors in Jianghu city. This is really outrageous. Preposterous. In my opinion, 50 million taels of gold is still too little this time. If old man makes an offer, it will definitely be 10 times this price. Let him be terrified. I'd like to see how he's going to bargain. There was even a general who angrily slammed the table and shouted, "What's the point of selling? Isn't it better to just call him over and kill him while he's down? Won't it be great if all of it is ours?" Wei Zheng, Zhangsun, and the others looked at each other. A hint of a smile flashed in their eyes. The effect was achieved. Now, it was up to Tubo how to deal with it. In order to make this matter perfect, only Zhangsun, Wei Zheng, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, and Xing Yaojin knew about the next plan. But now, these people did not say a word. Instead, they looked at the angry crowd with smiles. Du Ruhui even added oil to the fire, and sighed with bemoaning the state of the universe and pitying mankind. You don't know about this. At that time, the emperor was so angry that he almost fainted. Do you think this matter can be forgotten? No. Everyone was united against a common enemy. At this time, some people even began to roll up their sleeves, as if they were ready to go all out. Wei Zheng coughed and scolded, "Everyone. You are all the pillars of the Tang dynasty. You are here to negotiate, not to argue. Don't you want that Tubo barbarian to laugh at us? All of you, show me the manners of a nation of etiquette. Let's show them our might." Hearing this, everyone tidied up their clothes. The emperor sat still. However, everyone's chests were still heaving violently. At this moment, a young eunuch's voice rang out outside Taiji Palace. Tubo's envoy is here. Hearing this, a hint of anger flashed in everyone's eyes. Then, without looking at the door, the emperor sat still in his seat. Even Xing Yaojin and the other generals looked ahead at this time as if they were overlooking the battlefield. At this time, Solons and the others stepped into Taiji Palace. Chapter 102. As soon as they stepped into Taiji Palace, Suo Lang and the others could clearly feel a different atmosphere permeating the air. Wei Zheng and Zhangsun Wuji habitually stood up to welcome the newcomer. However, their hands, which had just cupped together, froze in midair. The words in their throats were stuck in their throats. This time, Tubo's envoy was even more shabby than when they saw him in the court. The gold and silver used for decorations were gone. Are they going to be poor? A trace of resentment flashed across Wei Zheng's face. Tubo's envoy, Solons, pays his respects to you, Your Excellency. Solons bowed respectfully. As soon as he entered, he knew that today would be a difficult day. But he didn't expect that Wei Zheng, who was praised as the most difficult person to deal with in the Tang dynasty, would be confused by their appearance. This is a good sign. Wei Zheng coughed. Today, His Majesty is physically and mentally exhausted because of many things and the recent rumors in Jianghu city. Originally, His Majesty wanted to come in person, but he is not well, so this time, old man is presiding over it. Solons hurriedly apologized. His Majesty the Tang Emperors is a role model for our generation for the sake of the people in the world. Here, on behalf of Tubo's brothers, I wish His Majesty the Tang Emperor's good health. As he spoke, Solons and the others bowed. Then, his voice changed and he said with a little bitterness, "This morning, I suddenly heard that because of the drought in Tubo, tens of thousands of people were taken away by hunger. A few days ago, His Majesty the Tang Emperors, out of benevolence, specially gave me the treatment method of Tubo. I wonder if Your Excellency Wei," he emphasized the word, "give." This made all the ministers frown slightly. Although there was only a difference of one word, the meaning was really different. "Excuse me, Your Excellency. When did His Majesty say anything about bestowing? We were all in the main hall that day. Could it be that you think we are old and blind? Or do you think that everyone in the Tang dynasty, from His Majesty to the officials, is a fool?" All the ministers were dissatisfied. Originally, everyone was good at this. In addition, Tubo's people had the intention of flattering His Majesty. How could this be? If that was the case, wouldn't everyone in the world dare to disrespect the Tang dynasty? Even Zhangsun Wuji stopped smiling and said in a serious tone, "Sir Envoy, we are all clear about this matter. Let's not beat around the bush. The 50 million taels of gold that we agreed to was already His Majesty's benevolence. If it were someone else, not to mention 50 million, even if it's 100 million taels, the Tang dynasty would still disdain it." Solons's expression changed slightly. However, his expression did not change. He sighed and said, "Lord Zhangsun, please calm down. I know that because of the local customs, you all think that we are arrogant, but that is not the case. Our respect for the Tang dynasty is as clear as the sun and the moon. But you all also know that Tubo is in a difficult situation now. We really can't afford 50 million taels of gold. If it were in the past, not to mention 50 million taels of gold, even if it was 10 times the price, Tubo would still be able to afford it. In recent years, Tubo's borders have not been peaceful. We have been fighting with India and other countries for years. Coupled with the severe drought this year, we really don't have that much money." Zhangsun Wuji smiled. He took a sip of wine and grabbed Wei Zheng, who was about to speak, and said, "I know Tubo's difficulties. But you also know the Tang dynasty's difficulties. My great Tang has been at war for many years, and now that the common people are finally able to rest and recuperate, the Long Yu path is suddenly struck by a calamity. Look at you, the Long Yu path. All of our food has been used for disaster relief." Solons and the others' eyebrows suddenly twitched. What is this old thing doing? Why is he talking about the Long Yu Dao at this time? Does he want to? That's right. I think Lord Solons also understands what I mean. At this time, Zhangsun Wuji stood up with a dejected expression. Originally, His Majesty wanted food because everyone knows that our Tang dynasty is short of food. At this time, food is the only way to resolve the drought. However, His Majesty is merciful and can't bear to see his brothers suffer. So, in the opposition of the civil and military officials, His Majesty decided that we must ask for money, not food. Brilliant. It was so King Hai. All the officials of the Tang dynasty present couldn't help but give him a thumbs up under their embroidered robes. Looking at Zhangsun Wuji, whose face was full of tears, everyone sincerely admired him. They were full of admiration. At this time, all the envoys of Tubo were frowning. Damn it. What should they do? Before they could speak, all the officials in the Taiji Palace followed suit and began to sob. I didn't expect that His Majesty's mercy would be spread in Chang and city by some people, saying that His Majesty won't help Tubo. Some people also said that Tubo's brothers have gathered hundreds of thousands of people and are going to attack Chang and at any time. Tell me, what is the intention of the person who spread the rumor? Lord Solons, tell me, is this true? Tubo's people are in full swing now, and we are actively trying to find a way, but someone wants to take the opportunity to sow discord between us. If His Majesty listens to the slanderous words at this time and orders millions of Tang soldiers to attack Tubo in anger, have you thought about the consequences? Solons was shocked. His whole body was trembling. In an instant, he only felt that the world was spinning. Damn it! Can you not trick me like this? Chapter 103. However, the problem now was it really a good idea to lead the conversation like this? The Tubo envoy's expression changed involuntarily. Solon stood there, not knowing whether to sit or stand. He said in a low, muffled voice, "My lords. These are all rumors. Although I don't know who is spreading such rumors, this matter really has nothing to do with me, Tubo. Think about it, I, Tubo, am now in a difficult situation. How could I do such a thing? Our two countries have always been the best neighbors. How could we dare to do such a thing under the nose of the tiger known as the Tang dynasty? This is a misunderstanding. It's a rumor. I beg you, my lords, to give me, Tubo, justice. Those who hurt our relationship must be severely punished." Solons understood. This matter was messed up this time. It's all Sauron's fault. If he hadn't been so stubborn and insisted on spreading rumors, things would be great now. He was caught red-handed. However, now he only hoped that the Tang dynasty wouldn't be so ruthless and ask for less. Zhang Sun Wuji sighed, "Sigh. Brother, I know that these are all rumors, so I didn't take it to heart. You don't have to worry about this matter." Wei Zheng also stood up to smooth things over. "Lord Zhang Sun. We are here to negotiate the price. It won't be too late to discuss anything after this matter is settled and His Majesty holds a banquet." "Oh. Yes, yes, yes." Zhang Sun Wuji pretended to be enlightened and patted his head. Then, he spread his hands and said awkwardly, "Well, since Lord Solon said that this is a bit too much, then let's not talk about money. Now, I know that it's very uncomfortable. But the Tang dynasty is also the same. Since there are difficulties, then let's not talk about money. Talking about money hurts feelings. How about this? How about we exchange food for it?" "What the hell? Food? F***ck. Can you be any more shameless? If I had food, would I have come to the Tang dynasty for help?" Tubo's diplomatic mission exploded. Sauron immediately stood up and said in a muffled voice, "You're looting a burning house. If I, Tubo, want food, I have it. Why should we ask for it? You keep saying that you want to help me, Tubo. What are you doing now? In my opinion, if the Tang dynasty is not sincere, I'll go back directly. I'll tell the world what kind of people the Tang dynasty is." Sauron. "Shut up." Solon's expression suddenly changed. However, this was just for show. These words were exactly what he wanted to say. However, at this moment, he realized that something was wrong. When Sauron spoke, he actually saw a hint of a trap on the faces of these Tang dynasty officials. No. This was a trap. My lords. Sauron is a straightforward person, so please bear with him. However, although his words are crude, they are still reasonable. I hope that my lords can understand the difficulties of Tubo. If you can stop the drought in Tubo, my king said that all the food exports of Tubo next year will be at the lowest price to the Tang dynasty. What? How dare you threaten us? Do you believe that old man won't let you walk out of Chang'an City? How dare you? How preposterous. Are you asking for help? This is simply the logic of a bandit. If you ask me, this thing shouldn't be given. It's better to burn it than to give it to them. His Majesty's painstaking efforts are actually for a group of ingrates like this. When all the officials heard this, they instantly exploded. At this time, no one cared about the etiquette of the Tang dynasty. Everyone cursed and quarreled with the Tubo envoys. Solons, Zhang Sun Wuji, Wei Zheng, Fang Xianling, and Du Ruhui narrowed their eyes, as if waiting for something. Qing Yao Jin was even more direct. He picked up a stool and was about to beat Sauron to death. At this moment, Wei Zhengkai scolded coldly. Enough. What a scandal. Do you think this is a vegetable market or something? Old Hay, watch your actions. Then, Wei Zheng stood up, looked at Solons, and said lightly, what do you think we should do about this? You've seen the situation now. You don't want to give the money, and you don't want to give the food either. His Majesty originally wanted to donate it to you, but now it seems that the donation won't work. Even if we agree, all the people of the Tang dynasty won't agree. So, you'd better come up with a way. We're all very busy. Wei Zheng directly made the decision. This was because he had obtained the result he wanted. And this matter shouldn't be dragged on for too long. At this time, Solons was also in a dilemma. He wished he could slap himself twice. Now he finally understood why the people of the Tang dynasty were so angry at the beginning. It turned out that His Majesty the Tang Emperors intended to give this thing away for free. Damn Sauron. If it weren't for you, my Tubo, Solons's vision went dark. He felt a sweetness in his heart and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He finally understood why he felt something was wrong from the beginning. He was digging a hole for Tubo. Money. Food. Now he had to choose one of the two. If the Tufan kings knew about this, even if he didn't die, he would be skinned alive. At the thought of this, Solons's head was about to explode. After a while, he said in a muffled voice, in that case, you set a price. Chapter 104. After 6 hours of negotiation, Zhang Wuji finally came to a decision. In the end, Tubo gave in. In the end, they signed the contract for 45 million taels of gold and left Chang and city with their tails between their legs. They were not even in the mood to wait for Li Shimon's banquet of the highest standard. How could they be in the mood to eat? They had wanted to lower the price to the lowest so that they could reap some benefits. But now, they had gone for wool and come home shorn. Instead, they had gone through so much trouble and only managed to negotiate for 500,000 taels of gold. Did Tubo lack 500,000 taels of gold? Of course not. Who would care about 500,000 taels of gold? Solons had sent a messenger pigeon to the Tufan kings after they had reached an agreement that day. He had promised that he would be able to get the blueprint effortlessly. But now? Solons wished that he could kill that idiot Sauron right now. But it was all too late. 5 days later, carriages whose heads and tails could not be seen appeared in Chang and city in an endless stream. Although these carriages looked no different from ordinary carriages, they were all pulled by 3 horses at the same time. Even the roads that these carriages passed by left deep tracks in their wake. All the people were puzzled. But there were also some well-informed people who knew that these carriages must contain the money that Tubo had used to buy the sacred item to cure the drought. The carriages went from the illustrious Virtue Gate to the Vermilion Bird Avenue, to the Vermilion Bird Gate, and finally to the Imperial Palace. Along the way, there was no tail of these carriages. Qing Yao Jin and the others were beaming. They pointed at the carriages below the city gate tower and said, "See that? If I didn't scare them with my broad axe that day, they wouldn't have handed over the gold so obediently." Wei Zheng and the others pursed their lips when they heard that. Meanwhile, in the imperial study, Wei Zheng and the others brought the document signed by Tubo's envoy and presented it to Li Shimon with both hands. "Your Majesty. This is a letter written by the Tufan kings to Your Majesty from Tubo's envoy, and this is a document from the Tubo envoy, as well as 35 million taels of gold. Not a single coin is missing." "Oh. Present it." Li Shimon looked at the booklet in Wei Zheng's hand. With a wave of his hand, he opened the booklet and read it carefully. He didn't even look at the gold. A moment later, Li Shimon's eyes were burning. "Good. Very good. My beloved ministers, you have handled this matter beautifully. On the day of the imperial edict, anyone who participates will be rewarded with 1,000 taels of gold. Now that he had money, Li Shimin did not show a stern expression. With a wave of his hand, he rewarded each of them with 1,000 taels. The gold was a small matter. The key was what the Tufan kings had promised. In the letter, the Tufan kings first thanked Li Shimin and then promised that as soon as the grain was harvested this year, he would sell it to the Tang dynasty at a low price. But did he, Li Shimin, take a fancy to this? No. What he saw was that Zhang Feng's plan had really succeeded. As long as the grain was transported to Tubo, then the plan would really begin. Beloved Minister Wei, is there any news from our spy? Li Shimin pondered for a while and asked. Yes. As he spoke, Wei Zheng took out a bamboo tube as thick as a thumb from his embroidered robe and passed it to Li Shimin. This is everything that happened in Tubo after the Tubo envoy returned. In order to reassure the people, the Tufan kings really went to the border to welcome the envoy group back. Hearing this, Li Shimin slowly opened the secret report. After reading about everything that happened in Tubo on that day, Li Shimin's heart became more and more shocked. Zhang Feng's foresight was truly godly. Regarding this matter, do you all think that what Brother Zhang Feng said will come true? Li Shimin asked solemnly. Wei Zheng and the others also stopped smiling and did not dare to overstep their boundaries. Your Majesty, it seems that everything is exactly as Zhang Feng said. However, it depends on whether someone in Tubo can create this thing. If he can really create this thing, then... No. Zhang Sun Wuji interrupted Wei Zheng. I know about this. Previously, I personally supervised the craftsmen in Chang and city to make this thing. Although the outside is simple, the key is the seal and the wooden gears inside. Although I don't know what the gears are used for, do you know how many gears there are? How many? Wei Zheng did not know about this. At this moment, he could not help but feel puzzled. Even Li Shimin became interested. Zhang Sun Wuji stretched out his hand and said, 55. There are gears made of copper, iron, wood, and some other things. 55 in total. If you don't have someone who is familiar with this manufacturing method, you won't be able to connect these gears at all. Even if you connect them, you won't be able to shake the handles or pump water out. This time, Li Shimin and the others were finally relieved. Although this matter seemed trivial, it was enough to show Zhang Feng's wisdom. If it wasn't for Zhang Feng, then how could he, Li Shimin, have obtained 45 million taels of gold for no reason? And he did not even dare to think about the next trap. He smacked his lips. Li Shimin murmured, Zhang Feng is really the god of wealth of the Tang dynasty. Chapter 105. At the banquet. Li Shimin had specially prepared a delicacy called the cocoon. After Zhang Feng's improvements, this dish had become the signature dish of the imperial palace. Even the locust eggs around Chang and city seemed to have been plowed, and the production had gradually decreased. Some businessmen had found a business opportunity and bought them from Longyu Road, then sold them to Chang'an. Even so, it was still not enough to satisfy the people of Chang'an city. Therefore, the price of this thing had skyrocketed from 1 copper coin per caddy to 1 kilogram of it now. Now that the crowd had seen so many different kinds of things, how could the officials wait any longer? They immediately reached out to grab it. Li Shimin was also quite generous. He took out 2 jars of fine wine that Zhang Feng gave him. Everyone, I really can't bear to drink these 2 jars of fine wine. However, to celebrate today, I would like to share them with you. The 2 jars of wine were not big. At most, the crowd could only drink 2 bowls each. However, when they saw Li Shimin's mysterious and solemn expression, as well as his pained expression, they understood that this thing was definitely something good. The crowd stood up and shouted in unison. Thank you, Your Majesty. Li Shimin waved his hand, and a palace maid opened the seal with a bang. In an instant, a rich wine aroma aroused everyone's appetite. First, it was the locust eggs. Now, it was this fine wine. Although they had not tasted it yet, the rich and fragrant aroma of the wine had already made everyone's eyes widen. If a palace maid accidentally spilled a drop of it, she would be so distressed that she would bleed. Although Wei Zheng and the others had this kind of wine at home, they could only drink it once. What was this now? This was a gift from the emperor. No, they had to find brother Zhang Feng alone. At most, they would buy some. Anyway, the emperor had rewarded them with 1,000 taels of gold. What else could they do besides buy wine? They had just drunk and the wine was gone. However, Li Shimin was generous for once today. He directly took out 30 jars of tribute wine from the wine cellar and invited everyone to a banquet. The banquet soon ended. Wei Zheng and the others were stopped by Li Shimin. All of you have seen this matter. If it weren't for Zhang Feng, we would still be worried about the drought in Longyu and the surrounding situation. But now, I have Zhang Feng. It seems that everything in his eyes has become so simple that it can't be any simpler. While talking and laughing, he has already thoroughly analyzed the situation of the Tang dynasty. I am ashamed of today's banquet. He is clearly a meritorious subject, but I don't know what reason I have to summon him here to drink with me. Speaking of which, Li Shimin's voice was choked with emotion. Tell me, how should we thank him? Everyone was shocked. Chapter 106. For a few days, Zhang Feng was fiddling with his bacon. Although this thing seemed easy to handle, it was early summer. If it was not handled properly, it would go bad. Therefore, these days, he kept changing the water and blanching all the water in the meat with salt. Then, he spent some money to get some sandalwood and cypress branches from the woodcutter. He smoked it carefully. Although smoking meat seemed simple, it was not the right time. Moreover, he had nothing to do these days, which made Zhang Feng miss his hometown very much. Therefore, he was thinking about making this thing. On the one hand, it was to satisfy his appetite. Smoking was a worry-free life. He also had some money. Although they were all notes used by businessmen and officials, Zhang Feng had exchanged these things for gold bars and kept them in a secret place. Although the ticket number was good, there was no guarantee that it would drop in value the next day. It would be better to exchange it for gold bars. Looking at the skewers of smoked meat, Zhang Feng's mind started to run wild again. When the time came, the system might give him something. If it gave him a small pub at the beginning, what if he had to make a living in this pub in the future? Then he had to plan for the future. For example, the mutton skewers were secret weapons. Only Lao Li and the others had eaten them. And the wine. When the time came, these would be the capital to dominate the Tang dynasty. As he thought about it, Zhang Feng could not help but think about whether there were any famous ladies in Chang'an city. In this era, only families of equal social status were considered. When the time came, all these would be relied on. After all, everyone wanted to marry a wife, right? And who did not want to have a group of wives? Ahem. Just as Zhang Feng was leaning on the counter, laughing foolishly and even drooling, a cough pulled him back from his beautiful fantasy. Yo! Lao Li? Lao Wei? We haven't seen each other for a while. Come, come, come. Take a seat. The people who came were Li Shimin and Wei Zheng in disguise. Shopkeeper. You're rich. Li Shimin was unable to hide the excitement in his heart. He pulled Zhang Feng's hand and took out a bill from his bosom. On it was written 4,500 taels of gold. He looked at the numbers on the bill. Even though Zhang Feng had already guessed in his heart, he was still confused at this moment. 45 million, gold? If it wasn't for the official opening receipt, he wouldn't have dared to believe it. Was it really that valuable? Initially, he thought that even if His Majesty were to personally sell this blueprint, he would not be able to sell it for so much money. No. More than that. If His Majesty was selling it, it wouldn't be so little. Zhang Feng scratched the back of his head and asked, Who did you sell this to? Sold to the authorities. Li Shimin was very good at making up lies. You don't know. At that time, Lord Zhangsun of the Ministry of Personnel personally came to find me. Do you know what that means? This means that we're rich. Brother, I sent him away. This time, I made a connection with Lord Zhangsun. Do you know? Whose idea was that? That's His Majesty. Li Shimin's spittle flew everywhere. He pretended to be excited and said, at that time, Lord Zhangsun came to my residence. Do you know that that guy really brought honor to our family? Moreover, Lord Zhangsun said that if there's anything good in the future, he won't forget about us. Last night, after I entertained Lord Zhangsun, I immediately opened the ancestral hall early this morning to worship our ancestors. Then, I hurried over to you. Zhang Feng was dumbfounded. This was the first time he had seen Lao Li speak so eloquently. Zhang Feng couldn't help but smack his lips and pat Li Shimin's shoulder. Lao Li. You've inherited my teachings. How about this? I don't want this money today. Tomorrow, dress up properly and come to worship me as your master. Worship. Worship me as your master? Li Shimin and Wei Zhang were dumbfounded. How did this become worshipping him as his master? Wei Zhang was even more furious. The dignified emperor of the Tang dynasty was actually asking him to worship you as his master? What kind of scandal was this? What kind of scandal was this? No. Wei Zheng immediately interrupted Zhang Feng. But at this time, he also woke up with a start. He hurriedly changed his words and said, Brother Zhang Feng. Look at how old we are. How about this? Why don't we let Lao Li and my good-for-nothing son worship you as his master? If Lao Li worships you as his master, wouldn't that make the world a laughingstock? That's true. Zhang Feng scratched the back of his head. He smiled and didn't take it seriously. This is just a joke. Don't take it seriously. But, you've learned most of my skills. I'm just afraid that we won't be able to see each other for a long time. How can that be? What are you talking about? Are you saying that you can't beat me, Lao Li? Li Shimin patted his chest loudly. Zhang Feng was just joking. If he really asked Lao Li to worship him as his master, he would really have a headache. With this price, he was definitely not a decent person. He didn't dare to teach him to inquire about the affairs of the imperial court all day long. If he didn't do it well, he might lose his head. Zhang Feng couldn't help but look at the bill in his hand and said with emotion, It's enough to have a confidant in life. But Lao Li, do you think I'm handsome? Chapter 107. Although Li Shimin and Wei Jing didn't know how to explain the word handsome. But now, looking at Zhang Feng's appearance, they instantly understood. Wei Jing clasped his fists and said, Brother Zhang Feng, I'm about 20 years old. I'm pretty, but I'm a little thin. I wonder why you're asking this? Great. Old Wei has good taste. Wait, I'll give you something good to eat today. While talking, Zhang Feng hurried into the kitchen. Li Shimin and Wei Zhang were dumbfounded. What was this guy thinking? Looking at his despicable look, could it be, is he thinking of his wife? Li Shimin and Wei Zhang exclaimed in unison. This matter, although very simple, at this time, if they could arrange a marriage for him, then they could tie him down. When the time came, if their princess married him, then everything would be easy, everything's ready. Just when Li Shimin's imagination was running wild, Zhang Feng hurried out with a plate of fragrant boiled smoked meat. And the tempting aroma in the air made the two of them look at Zhang Feng instantly. Brother Zhang Feng, what delicious food did you prepare this time? Li Shimin stood up and looked at the plate and asked. Hey! Aren't you bored? I made some smoked meat. This is the taste in my memory. Come, have a taste. While talking, Zhang Feng put a plate of neatly cut streaky pork on the table, then turned to the counter and took a jar of wine. The meat was just boiled in ordinary water. It was crystal clear, like white marble. There was a trace of bright red meat mixed in it, which increased the appetite of Li Shimin and Li Qie. But looking at the meat, Li Shimin was a little confused. Next to the bowl of meat, there was a plate of white powder, and a few bottles of seasoning. Zhang Feng sat down and stirred the seasoning evenly in another bowl. Then, he sprinkled some of the white powder. Li Shimin was curious. He picked up a little white powder with his chopsticks and put it into his mouth. In an instant, his eyes widened. This is salt. This is. How can there be such fine salt? Brother Zhang Feng, tell me, is this salt? Zhang Feng was a little confused. Yes. What's wrong, Lao Li? Isn't it just a little bit of salt? Do you need to be like this? No. Li Shimin's face suddenly became serious. His hands trembling, he picked up the bowl of salt and carefully. After Wei Jing tried it, he was shocked beyond words. We all know about this salt. This thing can only be used by the rich. This thing is bitter and has a strange smell. But even so, it is worth a caddy of money. Ordinary people can only buy a little vinegar cloth to use. Where did you get this? And why is this salt so pure? It doesn't have a trace of sourness. Li Shimin was really shocked. When he left last time, he knew that Zhang Feng wanted to make salt, but he did not take it to heart. All the salt in the Tang dynasty was controlled by the government. Ordinary people could only buy some. During the refining process, the cloth was stained with salt, commonly known as vinegar cloth, to obtain the salt. But why was this salt different from all the other salt? It was even purer than the green salt they used to wash their teeth. How did he do it? This is very simple. Do you have to? Zhang Feng knew that the people in this world were in short supply of salt, and that the salt was really disgusting. So every time he bought salt, he would personally refine it. At that time, he did not see Lao Li and the others so shocked. Could it be that this thing was really so precious? Zhang Feng could not help but pat his head. Lao Li, your chance to make a fortune is here again. But this time, it depends on whether you have the guts or not. Please tell me. Li Shimin knew that the business Zhang Feng was talking about this time must be this salt. He could not help but ignore his status. He grabbed Zhang Feng's hand and humbly asked for advice. This salt was his biggest headache. That was why he was so concerned about it last time, but he did not take it to heart. But now that he had tasted it personally, he suddenly asked, the things we ate before were all this salt? Yeah. How else do you think this thing can be so delicious? Then, the mutton kebab last time was also this? Yes. Didn't you see it that day? Do you still need to ask? Li Shimin slapped his face and forcefully suppressed the excitement in his heart. How could he not be excited? This thing was in high demand. Previously, the military reported that many people were swollen because of the lack of salt. Some even did not have the strength to wear their armor. It was all because of the extraction of salt and the fact that there were many toxins in it. Moreover, he could not guarantee that every soldier would be able to eat this thing. So when he saw the soldiers in the military like this, he could only be anxious. But now it was different. He had Zhang Feng. Brother Zhang Feng, can you tell me, how did you refine this salt? Hey! Lao Li, do you finally understand the value of this salt? Okay. Since you're so impatient, I'll tell you. Li Shimin was sitting still. Brother Zhang Feng, as long as you can get this thing, Lao Li will satisfy you whatever you want. Zhang Feng heard this. He slapped Li Shimin's shoulder. I have been waiting for you to say this, Lao Li. Let me ask you, do you know the most beautiful girl in Chang'an City? Have any of you experienced this before? Hearing this, the two hurriedly nodded. But this thing, Lao Li. Since he's connected you with Lord Zhangsun, then your chance to make a fortune is here. After talking for a long time, Zhang Feng also used up a lot of his energy. Under the gaze of Li Shimin and Wei Zheng, he happily received 2 bags of fine salt and put them into his arms like treasures. In the end, Zhang Feng also brought up the final topic. I know that salt is now controlled by the government. Even if you've learned it, you don't have the permission of the housekeeper to mine and refine table salt without permission. It's a capital offense. However, if you sincerely offer it to Zhangsun. Li Shimin felt a headache coming on. What are you talking about? Am I really that murderous? Such a good thing, I can't wait for you to get more. However, he also knew that Zhang Feng must have something else to say, so he could only listen obediently. Zhang Feng continued, you've seen the method of this thing, so you should have learned it by now, right? Li Shimin and Wei Zheng nodded like a rattledrum. At this time, Zhang Feng said mysteriously, I've passed it to you, so it's time for you to express your gratitude. I was in a hurry this time, so I didn't bring much money. Other than the money I gave you, I only brought a few ingots of gold, enough. Seeing that Li Shimin was hemming and hawing, Zhang Feng was so angry that he could not vent his anger. I have to make this clear first. This is my secret that won't be passed on. You also know the key to it, but it's different now. Since you've hooked up with Zhangsun Wuji, then now, I'll tell you and give you some pointers. Free of charge, you were muddle-headed. Not only did you not earn any money, but you also lost your lives. Not only did you lose your lives, but you also dragged me down with you. Zhang Feng was a little speechless. He wished he could slap himself. Why did I take out salt? This is my capital in the Tang dynasty in the future. However, it was too late to regret now. He had to admit that he was struck by lightning for showing off. Well, you can offer this thing to Zhangsun Wuji. I believe that he's a smart person and will definitely give it to His Majesty. At that time, your official career will be opened because of this. But I advise you too. With your big mouths, don't be an official. Just get a position in the salt monitoring department. With this, I guarantee that you'll make a lot of money in the future. This cooperative may seem simple, but if there's a mistake in any of the links, then all the money will be wasted. It's the same as solving Tubo's problem. If you're so eager to do it, I can only sneak out of Chang, and now and return to Mount Wutai to continue my cultivation. Why? Li Shimin asked in confusion. At this time, he had recovered his emotions. In fact, he had recovered long ago. It was just that after hearing about the Black Tortoise Gate, he wanted to hear Zhang Feng's opinion. That was why the scene just now happened. When Zhang Feng saw that Li Shimin had stopped crying, he hurriedly changed the topic. At this time, when he saw that Zhang Feng wanted to leave the city in the middle of the night, Li Shimin hurriedly asked without thinking, "Why are you in such a hurry to leave the city?" Zhang Feng rolled his eyes at him. "It's all because of you. If you dare to tell anyone about such a ridiculous thing, I can guarantee that the Imperial Guards will kill you tonight. The Emperor is not a lunatic. Is there a need to do that?" Li Shimin muttered softly. Zhang Feng was not going to let it go. There's no problem with the emperor, but have you thought about how ridiculous this matter is? Who would dare to do such a thing in the past? Who has done it before? No one, Li Shimin said truthfully. Then that's it. Zhang Feng spread out his hands and said, you also know that no one knew about this before. If you tell the emperor now, the first thing the emperor will think of is that you, old Li, are deceiving the public with your lies. He will cut you down first. Tell me, are you reviving the family business or are you courting death? Li Shimin thought about it and agreed. If other people dared to talk to him like this, with his temper, he would really kill them. Li Shimin could not help but have mixed feelings in his heart. From the first time he met Zhang Feng, he had secretly sent people to investigate Zhang Feng's background. But after investigating, there was not a trace of clues. When the Tang dynasty was first established, many people were homeless, and Chang and city was even more so. It could be said that at least half of the people in Chang and city were newly registered, therefore, Zhang Feng's identity became even more mysterious. If he did not have a strong Guangzhong accent, Li Shimin would definitely think that he really fell from the sky. Thinking of this, Li Shimin looked at Zhang Feng carefully and said, many times, I've been wondering where you are from and who your master is. Can you tell me now, where did you learn this skill? Zhang Feng suddenly became interested. He stared at Li Shimin and asked, do you really want to know? You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.